All right. Hello. Welcome. How we doing? How we feeling? Welcome back to the show. Welcome back. Jimmy Moreland here for you. Let's get this bread. I am a voice actor, an audiobook narrator, and a music producer, and we're back on the stream. We're going to do some work today. We're going to be doing some audiobook narration a little bit later in the stream, but we're going to jump into some real-life voiceover auditions. You're going to see these are real things that paying clients have posted, and they are seeking auditions. But first, I am in the middle of restarting Pro Tools because Pro Tools, let me make sure I've got the right project open. It's got to be the audition template. Here we go. So let's take a look at what we're going to be seeing as soon as this, we'll go ahead and let you see the browser stuff here. We're going to be seeing voices.com, voice123.com. And later, we'll look at ACX and take a look at the available audiobook projects that are up for audition. We will not do any audiobook auditions, however, because I am stacked full with audiobook narration jobs. Now, real quick rundown on the stream here. Hi, howdy, I'm Jimmy Moreland. This is what we do here. These are real jobs, real paying clients. Later, I'll be narrating a real audiobook that I am really being paid to narrate. And you're going to see the nitty-gritty of how the sausage is made, as it were, of how I look at auditions, we are missing the picture-in-picture. Let's go back and go, there I am. You're going to be seeing the nitty-gritty of how it's done, of how I select auditions and decide whether I am or am not going to do them, and actually reading them, recording them, doing a quick edit and production, and submitting them for review from the client. I am going to be working, as you will see here, I'm going to be working in Pro Tools. What we have here on the left, this is Pro Tools. This is what I use to do all of my audio work. It is not something I recommend, especially if you are new to audio work. I'll be talking today as though you are a new or an interested, prospective person trying to get into voiceover work or audiobook narration, because that is usually the kind of person who drops into these streams. If you're not, if you're just like, what the hell is going on? I need a voice that will be on my phone or my PC as I go to sleep, as I drift off, then welcome for that as well. I hope I'm not too obnoxious and you can fall asleep. But as far as chat and interactions, I do like for this to be a chat-focused stream. I have so many screens in front of me here as I narrate. I've got my tablet for actually looking at my copy, my text. I also have another tablet here set up just for monitoring chat from the two places that I'm streaming to. I've got Twitch and I've got YouTube. Twitch chat will go up on the screen. So if you're a little shy, if you don't want your stuff actually going up to where everyone can see it, then you can chat on YouTube and I'll see it, but it won't actually go up on the screen to be preserved in perpetuity on the VOD or what have you. I do want to make sure we've got our pinned stream message here. So let's go ahead and paste that here. There's that chat, and let's pin it. There we go. Manually done. And then let's make sure the same thing is done over on the YouTubes. Can we please go to the channel? Please just go to the channel. Thank you. Yeah, so if you've got questions as I'm doing this about what I'm doing at any given moment, if you have questions about gear, if you've got questions about software, if you've got questions about the biz, as it were, then let me know, and I'll do my best to answer. Like I said, I'm happy to do chatting in this stream here. Let's pin that on YouTube as well. Cool, we're pinned in both places. Let me change this to data saver so I'm not just sucking away frames. There we go. Cool. So let me do one last little double check here, making sure audio's good there. We'll turn the loop back on here in a second, so that you can actually hear as I'm doing punch and roll recording here. Okay, So let's get into it. Later in the stream, I'll be doing some real audiobook narrating, and it's going to be kind of fun because I'm going to be showing sort of day one, even a little bit day zero of what my process is for getting started with a new project, because that's what we're doing. I'm going to be recording starting from chapter 1. In fact, before that, but starting from chapter 1, we're going to start the new book, and you're going to get to see what that's like, and you're going to get to hear the first at least one chapter, if not more than that. We'll see how it goes productivity wise, but I trust you all to keep me on task here. But first, we are going to do some voiceover jobs. So let's look at this in full screen first. Again, this is voices.com. This is Voice123. These are what we call the pay-to-play websites. There's an annual fee, hefty annual fees involved with both of these websites. I've found them to be worthwhile. They certainly pay for themselves and more. Though I do have complaints, and I'm sure we will get to all kinds of complaining today on the stream. But for right now, we're going to start on voices because these tend to be a little bit more time sensitive. And it's been a couple of days. I've been working on other stuff, so I haven't done any auditions the last couple of days. But we might. It's happened before that we actually don't do any auditions on a given stream, just because either the auditions that are available aren't right for me or they're too old. Prime example here, we'll zoom in a little bit here, W67 there, is looking at the number of responses that have been submitted on these auditions. So this one has 67 responses. This one has 85 responses. And what you have to think about is you think about the client side of things. They're posting this job. They're wanting to cast someone quick and just like get the project moving and move on to the next thing. They're not going to listen to 100 auditions. They're going to listen to 20 and they're going to pick the first one that sounds good enough, especially at these lower price points. Like this, why is this a managed services job with a $250 budget? I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on at Voices. Usually, in fact, when you see it here, it'll say, this job has been posted by a member of the Voices managed services team. Managed services jobs differ from jobs posted by clients in a variety of ways. In addition to a higher average budget. Really? Really? A higher average budget? Really? Yeah. Again, I don't know what's going on over at Voices. It does seem that like things aren't getting better. Anyway, so we'll look at let's take a look. So this is too many people in front of me. Again, thinking of whoever the casting director is or whoever's reviewing these, that's a lot of auditions to listen to. And they're just not going to. You're not going to get heard. And so I'm not going to waste my time doing an audition that's never going to be listened to. So let's scroll down and look at some of these things here. Likewise, if you see something with only 7 responses, even though it's been up for a while, this has been up for at least a day, you got to figure there's probably a reason that nobody has responded to it. In this case, it's definitely just the budget, $25. Factor in that Voices takes 20% off of this number, so you're only getting $20. It looks like this is like some kind of short story or something like that. Like, no, a podcast, so you're probably playing a character in an audio drama sort of situation. I'm not really interested in doing that for $20. You've got these things that have some actually decent budgets, north of $1,000, and you've got 100 plus responses on them. That's sort of normal to see on Voices. Let's take a look at this here. $200, 25 responses. Winnipeg. It doesn't say that they want a Canadian accent. There's a slight military. So, all right. Important to note here. On voices.com, the website that we're on right here, there's no penalty for swinging and missing. The only thing that you lose is your own time. Voice 123, you got to be really, really strategic about every audition that you choose to submit. Here, though, it's a zoo. It's whatever you want. There's no algorithmic penalty for submitting things that are a stretch or perhaps just wrong for you. There's no penalty. So the only penalty is your time and sanity, perhaps. So we might go ahead and do this. And the reason I mention this is, A, I'm not Canadian. They don't say that they're looking for a Canadian accent, but Winnipeg is mentioned in the first sentence. It's a sports-related thing, Canadian Armed Forces, yada yada. There's a little bit of a sense of an appeal to patriotism and sense of home, of country, which would make you think like maybe they want just a little bit of an accent there. But again, they haven't said so. The other thing that would make me hesitate if this was over on Voice 123. The two reasons I absolutely would not do this if this was on Voice 123. Number one, I'm not Canadian. Number two, it's sports. For whatever reason, I guess my theory is that the fact that I am not a sports guy. I don't care about, really, name your sport, basketball, football, baseball, soccer, hockey. I just don't care. I have never cared. That's just not my thing. I'm not a sports guy. And I think that comes through somehow in some, universal way. And I just tend not to get hired for sports stuff. I have done some sports work, but it's a lower hit rate than the other types of auditions that I do. But since we're here, I don't want to walk away, empty-handed, as it were, from the stream. So we are going to do this audition and just see what happens. Maybe we'll get it. Maybe we'll make $160. All right, let's do this. I have not fully pre-read this script. I'm going to read it cold. I've looked and seen the keywords of Winnipeg and Canadian Armed Forces, but I have not read the script. You only have one chance to read it cold, and you might as well be recording when you do it. So let's do it. Looking for grounded and cinematic. I will reread this here. Grounded and cinematic. Okay, so they're not looking for a high energy sports read. They're looking for something a little bit more close to home. So let's do it. Every night in Winnipeg, someone is already at work. Before the city wakes up, they're already... Okay. Every night in Winnipeg, someone is already at work. Before the city wakes up, they're already out the door. This is their city too. Free and discounted. We're probably going to come up there. We're going to go ahead and delete that first part there and come back here. We're doing a little bit of punch and roll. This is their city too. Free and discounted game tickets for Winnipeg's first responders, Canadian Armed Forces members, and frontline workers. Okay. Emphasis. Is their city too. Free and discounted game tickets for Winnipeg's first responders. Powered by... This is tough. Is their city too. Free and discounted game tickets for Winnipeg's first responders, Canadian Armed Forces members, and frontline workers, powered by the fans and companies who believe these seats belong to them. Bomber game days. Okay. Let's do that, and we'll tighten that up in just a second here. Who believe these seats belong to them. Bomber game days hit different, and the people who protect this city deserve to feel that. Blue Bomber Honor Tickets. Sign up or donate today. So I do feel like for a sports read, my instinct would be to give it a little bit more of a higher energy read. Usually that's what sports are. It's like every evening, every night in Winnipeg, someone is already at work. Before the city wakes up, they're already out the door. This is their city too. That's the kind of read that might be a little bit too radio, but their city too. Free and disc. But they did say cinematic and grounded, and so I tried to give them a little bit something closer to what we might call the John Krasinski read. That's kind of what I was going for. I don't know if I succeeded, but we will find out based on whether we get hired for this or not. All right, turn on my noise reduction. You know what? We're going to turn on the de-esser. I was feeling very essy there. Now we bounce and we go, we're going to call this simply by the 1_854.186. There goes that. Mute, 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 mute. And turn you guys off. And we are back in business. Cool. All right. You'll notice that I did not spend a bunch of time on the edit. I didn't go through, I didn't even listen to the whole thing. I did my edits. I listened to the one gap that was a bit questionable, and then I bounced out the file. I rendered it. Being fast is the name of the game in this, and obviously we're late to everything right now. That's just how my schedule is right now, which is a little bit of a bummer. But if you are sitting at your desk doing the work of a working voice actor, then speed is honestly, it's the number one ingredient to success. You need to be able to receive an audition or even a booking, and you need to be able to hit record and get it out. That's a big part of your path to success here. Looking for the perfect special event venue. So, okay, this is just a. I don't want to call it whatever. I don't want to be disparaging to a potential client. So, but it's standard. It's straightforward. I'm not going to think too deeply about this. We're just going to hit record. Looking for the perfect special event venue? Host your event on one of our boats and cruise. Host your event on one of our boats and cruise scenic Lake Geneva. Or hold your next company offsite on the lake. Or hold your next company offsite on the lake and make it the year's top event. Beautifully restored. We're gonna do a little bit of editing as we go here. I should be doing proper punch and roll, but I've been a little lazy on it. Special event venue. Host your event on one of our boats and cruise. Yeah. Lake Geneva. Or hold your next company offsite on the lake and make it. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Let's tighten that up there. Here we go. We'll do proper punch and roll for the rest of this. And make it the year's top event. Top event. Beautifully restored vintage boats and fresh lake breezes. Fresh lake breezes. That's going to be fun. And make it the year's top event. Beautifully restored vintage boats and fresh lake breezes set the tone for an unforgettable day on the water. Our concierge. For an unforgettable day on the water. Our concierge staff works with you to coordinate food, drinks, music, and other details so your event can be stress-free. Contact us today. That one's going to be hard. For some reason, that today is going to be, I just know that's going to be a bastard. So get ready for, we might have to do actually a couple of classic VO training tricks here. Singing straw is one thing, and the next is the old pencil trick. Contact us today. Cool. So your event can be stress-free. Contact us today to start planning. And it works. It's silly. It's goofy. But I'll be damned if it doesn't work. That's the pencil in the mouth thing. That's a new thing I've started doing. It is a very old technique, an old diction, old school diction type technique. And I'll be damned if that isn't crazy effective. Again, feels silly, but man, it works. So there we go. Turn on the denoise. I don't think we need the de-esser for that one. And this is 854.337. inactive, inactive. Come back here. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, and we're back. Let's reply. Response template. Here's the quote. Here's the audio. Send. Cool. Easy peasy. Okay. I think that I have a sneaking suspicion that might be it. There are 32 jobs in queue. I just have a sneaking suspicion that's all that we're going to be doing here. Right now, I'm just looking at the number of responses. Here, this says Canadians only, very explicitly. Trust, when they say shit like that, trust them. Don't be like, ooh, I can do a Canadian accent, so I, an American, am going to submit. Because it might not be that they're looking for an accent. It might be that they're paying with some kind of Canadian banking system that will only interface with other Canadian banks. So trust them when the casting says something like that. This one, Inclusion Networks Global, like maybe we'll look at that. We will look at this just so that we can laugh, because holy shit, if it's an audiobook and that's the budget, we're gonna do some yelling. 20. This is probably TTS or something, but we'll look at it. This little tag here, if you can see this yellow thing here, worked together previously. You love to see that tag. This tag shows up in my feed because we've worked together previously. And I don't know this for a fact, but I must assume that if I submit an audition for this, in the client's feed, as they're reviewing all the auditions they've received, I figure I have a similar gold badge on their feed when they scroll past my audition. They go like, oh, Jimmy, we've worked together previously. I'm going to give that one a listen. So that is, we'll look at it. We might not be, just looking at the title, we might not be right for that. I think that's like a video game, or it might be like a visual storytelling type of company. I can't really remember off the top of my head here. Okay, so we're going to archive everything that's checked. And we'll look at these 5 here. First, Inclusion Networks Global. Why are there only 30 responses? There must be something wrong. Looking for non-American accents. Okay. So they posted another job, a different job for casting American talent. We're going to trust them. We're going to archive that. Next. All right. We're probably going to have to bring up the old audiobook rate calculator on this one. It is short. It is short. However, now, okay. So, okay, I think this is a problem because let's see here. I'm actually not going to put the full text on the screen because this is a lot of text and I don't want to get like a weird copyright strike or something. But suffice to say, it looks like normal like book text here. We're going to do a word count to see if it matches up with what's in. Okay, it is. So words, 812 is what I've got. I guess they're not counting something in their count. So the problem is they've put the word count for the sample, but the budget is for the full audiobook. We have to assume, because it did say chapter 1. We don't know how long the full book is, but all right. So let's bring up the rate calculator here. It'll be on this, and it's here. So let's do some multi. We're gonna go big brain here and do multi-screen drifting here. Okay. So chapter 1 is 800 words. It's a pretty short chapter. Average, like my average audiobook length that I do is like probably 9 or 10 hours. Let's put them on the short end. Let's say this is a 6-hour book. Project length, let's call it 6 hours. Budget. Let's be as generous as possible and say that we quote and we book the very, very top end of the range, which is $99. Budget, $99. Remember, though, this is on voices.com. Voices.com is going to take 20% of this number. So that means, again, we'll be gracious and we'll round up. $80. Your per finished hour rate, if it's a 6-hour book, your per finished hour rate, wait, actually, I want to double check that I didn't just delete a bit of code. I did delete a bit of code. So let's go. Just briefly, I want this to point there. Or you know what? Let's just cheat it and go. It's going to be like what, 63? Split the difference. Call it 59. Call it 57. Call it 500. Sure. Okay. That's close enough. 6 hours. I just don't want to delete this code. It's just annoying to try to remember that each time. And our budget is $80 for the whole book. $80. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, Jimmy, where I'm from, $13 an hour is not bad pay. Problem is, it takes more than 1 hour of labor to produce a finished hour of audiobook. It takes a lot more than one finished hour. 1 hour of labor to produce one finished hour. In fact, for a beginner, a ballpark that a lot of people put out there is between 6 and 10 hours of labor to produce 1 hour of finished audio for a new producer. So let's put you on the short end of that. Let's say it takes you 6 hours of labor to produce one finished hour. This thing's going to be about 6 hours long, so that's about 36 hours of labor for $80. That comes out to $2.23. That's below minimum wage. Almost below the the tipped minimum wage. Oh, you got to remember, though, you're self-employed. You got to pay taxes on that. Average of 18%, you're actually coming home with $1.83 per hour for your labor. And there's the other thing you got to think about. With audiobooks, it is impossible to work a 40-hour work week just doing audiobooks. It's not impossible. There are a few freaks of nature who have the vocal stamina where they can talk for 8 hours a day. Scott Brick is famously the dude he can just go and go and go forever. I'm not like that, and I don't have any personal close narrator friends who are like that. We sort of max out between 2 and 4 hours of talking per day, and then you edit what you've got, and that's about all you can do. That's about all you can work on your audiobook narration career. Audiobooks are one of the largest sources of income, but they're not the only source, and it is not the single largest source. Music, voiceover, podcast editing, video editing, this is the kind of gig where you need multiple streams of income because our voices simply cannot hold up for the amount of hours per week it would take to really live the kind of life that we want to live. Your mileage may vary. All of that's to say, this job is a below minimum wage job. This is bullshit. This does not belong on a website that I'm paying a lot of money every year to be a member of. So I'm going to flag this. I'm not just going to deny it. I'm going to, how do I report this? Report a concern. Contains content that should not be on Voices. That's how I feel, but we're going to do this, and we're going to say, this job will net talent sub minimum wage. Why am I seeing this on Voices? This garbage belongs on Fiverr. the benefit of these pay-to-play websites is supposed to be the vetting. It's supposed to be like, hey, there's a gate, and we're keeping it. On both sides, both the client and the talent side. For client, all right, real quick, just got to hit the ban button here. Ban. There's supposed to be a gate on both sides of the coin. The benefit to clients is that talent are having to pay a lot of money to be a part of this marketplace. So unprofessional, unserious talent aren't swarming clients. Because if you just post like, hey, if you post on like, some random Facebook group, like, hey, I'm looking for someone to voice this thing, you're going to get people who are recording and submitting audio on their phone in a bathroom. It's going to sound like shit. It's just going to be garbage. So that's the service, the value that's provided to the clients. The value that should be provided to the talent is a similar level of gatekeeping to where shit like this, for no money, for sub minimum wage, isn't it? Like, I could find this on Fiverr. I could find this on Upwork. I could find this on any of those other like garbage race to the bottom gig work platforms. I could find this there. I come to here and I pay a bunch of money so that I can see quality clients. Like, it goes both ways. This is really upsetting. Anytime I see shit like this, I really, 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 sometimes I'll like pull up my calendar and like look at the next time my annual fee goes out, which on Voices is, I think it's $500. $500 to see sub minimum wage jobs. The fuck are we doing, Voices? Anyway, there's one of your rants for today. So we're going to archive that. Please archive. Okay, next up, ATI Fast Forward English. I bet this is, wait, what is this? No accent. Alamo Technical Institute. Okay. Why has someone reported this? I'm curious. Online, non-broad. I do hate seeing in perpetuity. It does, okay, non-broadcast in perpetuity. Television, local, 2 years. I'm not worried about that, especially if this is education, local to San Antonio, which is, I assume, where Alamo Technical Institute is. Here's another thing. Here's another job that if I were on Voice 123, I wouldn't do this, because sports is a thing that I tend not to get hired as much on. And education is another thing. I think maybe I sound a little too old. Despite being in the rough age range that they usually put here, like I'm on the younger end of this age range, 35 to 54. I'm 40, so I'm on the younger end of this. However, I think I just sound older than I am. I always have. Talent should be able to speak in English and Spanish. That's why. Now, I can speak in Spanish. However, I won't be the talent they want, because they're going to want someone who can fluently, natively speak Spanish with no accent. Discernible accent is not necessary. That's fine on the English side, but for the Spanish side, they don't want gringo stumbling through Spanish like they'll get from me. I've been told by native speakers that my accent is pretty good, but that's, people are being kind to me, who doesn't have a great command, but I can survive. So we're going to skip this because I am not the right talent for this. I hate how they just barely changed their their table width or something on here, and it makes the frames act differently than they used to. Grim and Grum and Grin, Brothers for Artifact Seekers, episode 14. These are like really short little bit character things. I think I did a bunch of little bit characters. Pig sounds. not going to do it. I recall it being a good client. I think I did a bunch of different things for them, but okay, here's another thing. Bruh. Do I have to bring up the calculator again? Let's do it. We've got another audiobook here. Word count. Here we're going to trust them on the word count. 14,634. Estimated length is about right. Budget here is 100. That, after Voice's fee, comes down to $80. Your per finished hour rate is $51 per finished hour. At your 6 hours per one finished hour rate, that comes out to $8.47. In some parts of the country, that's over minimum wage. It's not a living wage anywhere in the country. I don't think there's anywhere in the country where you can. Again, we've already established you can't work 40 hours, but even if you could work 40 hours, I don't think that there's anywhere in the country where you can afford a one-bedroom apartment, bills, phone, car, health insurance, everything else. There's nowhere in the country you can afford it on this hourly rate, even if you could work a full 40 hours, which again, you cannot. And again, keep in mind, you're paying your own taxes, and you don't have benefits with this job. You're on your own. So, this is bullshit. This is horse, dog, giraffe shit. It's just bad. We're going to report this one as well. Report concern. This job pays less than minimum wage in most than the minimum wage in most U.S. states. Voices is supposed to be a gatekeeper for this kind of trash. Okay. Yeah. And just so, Eric M., he's got 24 reviews. Like, this person should know better. Like, 119 posted jobs. I guess we can't see any of the other jobs that he's posted. They'll just say voiceover. I don't know if they would say audiobooks. Like, maybe this guy's casting for someone else, but I'm sorry, like, to know enough to know about ACX standards, so if you're curious what the going rate for this should be, the going rate for this should be, let's call it on the low end and say $200 per finished hour. So this should be a, $280 job at least. For shorter jobs, like you actually you should be paying a premium for them. It's the super, super long jobs that, like, you can, economy of scale and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, man. Like, 14 people actually submitted responses to this. Like, for you 14 folks out there, like, I'm sorry. That's a rough spot, man. That sucks, man. That really sucks. Like, I remember doing jobs for no money, and it was a bummer. But, like, that's a rough spot to be in. Like, good luck to you. But I can't imagine also paying $500 a year to Voices and then doing jobs for $50 per finished hour. That's a fucking miserable way to scrape along. All right, that's Voices. Let's move on to Voice 123. Let's refresh, even though I think this one actually has a functioning RSS function. Let's take a look here. Let's zoom in a little bit. My God. Wait, this is the standard zoom level? I can't see. Okay, We'll zoom into here. Okay, video. Like first, let's get rid of the stuff that we know we're not going to do. So here, again, voice 1, 2, 3. You're going to be much more picky about the jobs that you do choose to do. And here, clients, I don't know if they pay per requested proposal or how these numbers come about, but clients basically set a limit like, hey, in this case, I only want to hear 50 proposals. And they can receive as many as they get or whatever. So like this client requested 30 proposals. They've received 3 so far. This client requested 50 and they've received more than that. They're at 56 so far. My inclination is to believe the clients. When this client says, I only want to hear 50, I believe them. I believe that if I'm number 51, they're not going to hear me. I don't know if they have to pay on their end to hear more than whatever their first request is. I don't know. But whatever it is, I trust them. So this is one we're going to skip. Oh, there's all these Civil War things. That's why. These are TTS. That stands for text to speech. This is AI voice. These don't get twisted about the high pay. $5,000. Oh my God. Don't get it twisted, because doing any kind of voice for AI training will potentially close a lot of future doors for you. Doors that will pay a whole lot more than this one-time $5,000 payday. We're talking 6-figure contracts can be torpedoed by something as small as this one little job. I'm already hearing reports of like big clients like Disney, Coca-Cola, yada yada, having in their contracts or in their stipulations with potential talent, basically you got to sign like, I have never done any kind of TTS, AI training, etc. Because imagine the risk. Imagine that you are Coca-Cola and you spend tons of money on this talent, and you're really happy. The talent's great. They do a great job. Boom, you're the new voice of Coca-Cola. And then turns out there's an AI model of your voice floating around out there. And a month later, Pepsi goes, oh, look at that. The new voice of Coke has a pretty cheap subscription model that I could just hire their voice, where I can start posting Pepsi ads with the voice of Coke. Like, what a crazy thing that would be. Another scenario. Imagine you're the new voice of Coke, and suddenly someone can, with a cheap subscription, get access to your voice and make you say horrible things in a political sense, or horrible things, denying the Holocaust or something like that. What a disaster that would be for Coca-Cola. You gotta consider that. And even if it wasn't the payday thing, just stop and think about the idea that someone can, with a small subscription, by the way, which you won't get a royalty for because you've been paid a one-time fee, and so forever, 50 years from now, someone can take your voice and make you say horrible things. Like, what a hellscape. What a hellscape we are stepping into. Anyway, my advice to you is don't do it. Don't do anything that's TTS or AI training. Okay, so we've cleared out the things that are like, obviously, ain't no way I'm even going to look at. Let's take a look at these. We're going to skip the museum stuff at first here. Let's take a look at this. Video of Sustainable Development Initiatives. It's being paid out in euros, which is fine. You do always want to check. So 100 euros to dollars. So it's actually favorable, $117 from this job. Okay. 5 videos, each approximately 150 words long for... Wait. Are we getting paid 5 times? This right here makes it seem like we're getting paid 5 times. If that's the case, then this is a great job. Okay. So this is like an industrial explainer type thing. They're looking... I get a little hesitant about this. They're a little unsure what they want accent-wise, and they're unsure what they want gender and age-wise. I don't like that. But this does seem like a solid job. How many proposals do they already have? 19. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Let's reset. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and read this. Here we go. Take an adhesive. Emissions come from raw materials. Take an adhesive. Emissions come from raw materials extraction and transformation, production, packaging, transport, even end-of-life treatment. That's a carbon footprint. Now, scale that up. Let's reread that there. Let's do this. Now, that's a carbon footprint. Now, scale that up. A person, a building, a company, even a country has one. Even a country has one. Let's listen to that end part there. Even a country has one. Yeah. Even a country has one. Maybe we just take the has one. Even a country has one. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's see here. Am I still on the clipboard? I am. There's that. Boo. Just drag these out. That one's good to go. And then drag that there. Select all. Hit our auto crossfades. Save. Then turn our denoise and our declick. And we're going to bounce this out. I'm going to call this 3020916. Accept the invite. Submit the audio. This particular client won't care that I'm a military veteran, but who's got the time? There we go. Okay. Next, let's turn these off and get the next track ready to record. Next up, we've got Castaway Cove Season Pass TV. Character voice. Castaway Cove Water Park in Wichita Falls. Wichita Falls. The parrot character needs to be fun and animated sounding. Okay, so we'll look at the script. Pretty standard here. Cool. I love seeing scripts like this where it's got like descriptions of what's happening on the video. So you can sort of like visualize it in your mind. And then descriptions of the music. Upbeat tropical pop with light sound effects. Parrot, quick and clever. Squawk. Polly wants a party. Squawk. So they're giving you the announcer and the character. They might even be VSOT, but looks like not. So I'm not going to do this. I don't have a great parrot voice in me. Would probably trash my voice, and I need to preserve my voice anyway for all the audiobook narrating we're going to do later. But that's a fun job. Good luck to whoever does that. Hospital casting. What do we got here? USA and Canada, General American. Again, they're unsure of gender and age. We want something that transmits the professionalism of the hospital to our audience. Any questions, let me know. Decent budget, 32 out of 50 proposals received. Okay, cool. I've done jumps like these 100 times, so this will be easy. When a child gets sick, it's more than a diagnosis. It is a silence at the dinner table, a father trying to stay strong, a mother trying not to fall apart, a sibling growing up too fast. Because when a child hurts, a family hurts. And when a family hurts, a community feels it. Healing was never made to happen alone. Doctors, nurses, therapists, volunteers, neighbors, even strangers always show up. We'll do a punch and roll. Geez, this is kind of a lot for a... Okay. Strangers always show up. When that child finally breathes easier, when laughter finds its way back, it's more than just a life restored. It's a mother going... Punch and roll there. It's more than just a life restored. It's a mother going back to sleep. A father finally letting go. A brother getting his playmate back. A community feeling whole again. We don't only heal children. We heal with them. This is Driscoll. Together, we heal. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Pretty good take there. I would imagine that the final recording will be a lot faster. This is coming out to a little bit over a minute. So this is probably a 1 minute spot would be my guess here. So the final cut would be read a bit faster, but I like the pace that we had there. I think it was a fine pace. And it's good enough for an audition. Boom, boom. Okay. 3597950. Okay. Shut you guys down. Bring you up. Cool. Save there. Accept the invite. Oh, it's doing this thing. So here's the thing that happens on Voice 123. Sometimes you'll go like submit a proposal, and then it's like, where's the thing that I clicked to submit my audio? Refresh the page, and there it is. I don't know why it does that. This is a new behavior. It's only been doing this for like a couple months, but it's pretty consistent. It didn't do that. It did not do that on the last audition that we submitted. I think maybe because I had like resized, or I don't know. We're jumping all over the place, but that is an exceedingly annoying thing that Voice 123 has started doing in the relatively recent past. So let's take a look at these museum things. Actually, no, we'll look at that last. MAHC, is that a museum? Massachusetts Health Connector Video and Radio. 3 male VO talents. So they're booking 3 different talent? 3 distinct male voices for radio and digital. Each will voice 1 line in the spot considered. Please read a line for all 3 roles in the attention. Conversational, warm, and neighborly. You want perpetual radio. Perpetual radio. For Boston, or Massachusetts, which would include Boston. All right. I was going to read this. I was going to read this. Like, real simple job. I don't mind that the pay isn't great. Like, whatever. Like, you tell me you're going to pay me $150 to read Hope You Have That New Inhaler on You? Hell yeah. But, and here, don't get it twisted. It's not just like, oh, I'm too good for $150. It's, what is the opportunity cost? That's what you're paying for when you pay voice talent. You're not paying me for the time it takes me to read that 1 line. That would be crazy. You know, no one's voice is really worth that. It's the opportunity cost, because when you are using this product for anything broadcast, whether it's television or radio, then you get what's called conflict. Conflicts are how we refer to, it's like, hey, this is a car dealership ad in Dallas, Texas. I'm reading for Kia car dealership in Dallas, Texas. You can't go then read for a Ford dealership in Dallas, Texas. That's a conflict. The Kia and the Dallas client, or the Kia and the Ford client, will both be extremely pissed. And in fact, they probably have language in their contracts to prevent you from doing that. So if you went ahead and did it, they'll never find out. They will find out, and you're going to be in breach of contract probably times 2, and you're going to lose out on money, and you might even get your ass sued. You're paying, when it comes to broadcast rights, you as a client are paying talent these seemingly exorbitant rates for that opportunity cost. If I do this job for Massachusetts, it's a Massachusetts Health Connector Video and Radio. That potentially conflicts me out of doing all kinds of healthcare jobs for the entire state of Massachusetts and possibly even broader. There might be New England health cooperatives. There might be, lots and lots of things, like fully like Eastern, maybe even total US. There's all these different kinds of regionalities that come into play. And if I go, oh, sorry, I've got a conflict in Massachusetts because of this ad that I read for $150, this other client that wants to pay me $10,000 might go, oh, damn, it's a shame. Well, you can't read for this. Bye. Suddenly, I'm out of a $10,000 gig because of this. You need to consider this. It should be what these websites are doing, is gatekeeping these kinds of things. Like licensing, like usage. This is so important. And I understand if you're new to this and you don't understand it, like, that's fine. I get it. And if you don't have an agent who, like, the number one thing, I do have a voiceover agent that is like fully separate of like what I'm doing on stream. Like, I will never do any auditions or live work or anything like that from my agent on this stream. I keep it completely separate. But one of the biggest things that my agent does, aside from sending me like great quality stuff, is that they vet the stuff. They would never send me anything with this kind of sneaky thing in it. Radio, perpetual. Like, they would never send, honestly, they would probably never send me anything perpetual unless it had a crazy price tag. Because they understand this stuff. They understand that, like, anything perpetual for broadcast is like, it's insane. It's insane. It's not done by real professionals in the industry. So this person has posted 22 castings. Like, they should know better. They should. Yeah, this is bad. Now, I will just, for a note here, for online, perpetual online, it doesn't really matter. Like, conflicts for the online space, unless it's like a direct, like, brand to brand conflict for online, otherwise it's the Wild West. It doesn't matter. If you've done online ads for Coke, you're probably not going to get a gig doing online ads for Pepsi. But otherwise, geographies don't exist. It's online. It's just categories. It's just product and service categories that you might come into an issue with. So maybe if it's like a major, if it's like a, car manufacturer category or whatever, maybe they'll go like, oh, hey, like, I love Ford, but reading a perpetual online ad for Ford for like $500, like, maybe that's an issue. I don't know. At that point, if you're reading for a major brand, you probably have an agent anyway. So just talk to your agent. Make sure it's above board. But when you're out here in the Wild West, the zoo that is the pay-to-play websites, you got to watch out for this shit. This is doo-doo. This is poop from a butt. Decline. Here we're going to go usage disagreement. Get the fuck out of here with that. Okay, next. I've already looked at this, so I'm going to trust. Okay, and we're down to the last 8 jobs here. Again, I want to look at the non-museum ones here. 30 seconds product demo SaaS. I have a feeling this client is not a native English speaker because that looks like it's a misspelling of secondes. 30 secondes. But it's segundo. Wait. Okay. Y'all are doing too much. for $50. Y'all are doing too much. You'll learn to spot red flags that go like, this client's going to be a pain in the ass to work with. I'm not saying that's necessarily what I saw there. I just, not interested. Narration for museum exhibit. This seems like it might be a different client. They're wanting a South Carolina accent. So, oh God, it's a dot pages. Just based on that. I'm sorry, just based on that, a dot pages. Get the fuck out of here. Oh my God. Oh my God, that's great. I'm sure it's great. Okay. Is this also the same thing? Is this the same client? Looks like. Wait. Okay. Civil War Recruiter. Trivium Interactive is creating an immersive audio track for the Atlanta History Center's Civil War exhibit. Unrealistic Expectations will feature calls from Civil War recruiters encouraging men to enlist at the outset of the war. This posting is for a Union Army recruiter. We're looking for the following type of voice for this role. Male, late 20s to mid 30s. I'm a little old for that. The emotional tone should be patriotic, urgent, and rallying. Will you sleep while the flag of our country is in danger? Awake, arouse before it is too late. Insist that the forts are manned at once. May God speed the right. Like, that does sound fun. Erasmus. What a name. Dear wife, we are tired, but we are needed in the field. It is the duty of every man to be in the army fighting for this country. Like, this is all super fun, and if this was on Voices, I would do every one of these because it would be so much fun. But on Voice 123, you are penalized for having fun. And these, you're probably going to get heard, but if you're not right, oh God, and even this is a case, you're not going to get hired for all 6, and you're probably not going to get a thumbs up on all 6. So even if you get hired for one of these, it might actually, in aggregate, hurt in the algorithm. I'm not sure what the ratio is of like how much is a hire worth versus a like versus an audition that gets neither. I'm really curious about that. Maybe I should ask them. Like, what's the point system? How much is it worth in the algorithm to get hired versus getting a like versus getting neither? Because if a single client like this has posted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, say I do get hired on one, but no likes on any of the others because they go like, hey, that's the guy for Charles Pomeroy. And they know that I'm right for that. So they don't thumbs up me on any of these other ones. So I got 1 hire and 5 dead auditions. Does that actually net me a boost in the algorithm, or does that drag me down? I kind of want to ask that. We're going to do none of these, again, because we are discouraged from playing on Voice 123. So that is the queue. We'll go ahead and hit refresh on both of these to make sure that is the queue. Yep, that's the queue on Voice 123 and Voices. Let's take a look at the audiobooks that are currently available. Making sure we're good. Okay, let's make sure we're good over here as well. Seems like we're good. Okay, so ACX, this is the Audiobook Creation Exchange. This is where audiobook narrators find their work for the most part. Sometimes you'll find audiobooks on Voices and Voice 123, but in my experience, those are mostly dog shit. As we saw today, we saw a couple of books that paid less than minimum wage. I have booked maybe 2 or 3 audiobooks through these sites, and those were good. I sort of got the rare, like, good ones that were posted. But man, it's a zoo over there. Over here on ACX, you've got the very helpful filters that you can bring up, where I've already applied filters here. The filters that I've got are genres where I've basically, the only thing I think I have unchecked is erotica. I ain't the guy for that. I've got my basic, gender, voice gender, and then budget. This is the bucket that I read in. I do not hide my rate from the stream or for anyone who's looking at me for potential work. My rate for new authors is $280 per finished hour, which is slightly higher than the industry standard of $250 per finished hour. That industry standard was the industry standard 5 years ago. I don't know if you've noticed, but inflation is a crazy thing. And I am completely stacked. My schedule is so full. I'm booked out basically indefinitely. Basically, I have a pipeline of authors, rights holders who keep me supplied with recurring work. These are people who write and write and write and write. They write so much, and I've got enough of them that I've got like a rotation in my schedule to where when I finish one, the next one's ready, the next one's ready, the next one's ready. I basically haven't had a break in my work in like 4 years. I'm very, very lucky to have had this pipeline sort of come together. And all of those authors are at varying rates that are more or less the same rate that we agreed to on the very first book that we came together on. I'm not going to like, hey, I've done 8 books for you, but book 9, I'm going to jack up the rate. I'm holding your like continued good reviews hostage to my desire to get another $10 per finished hour out of you. I'm not going to do that. The relationship is worth more than a few dollars per finished hour to me. So that's where that is. My current work is at varying rates. Most of my authors are at $250 per finished hour. New authors, anyone who wants to book me for a new project tomorrow, $280 per finished hour is the opening argument. Yeah. So that's why I'm in this price bucket over here on the right. So if I were looking for audiobook work, here would be my process, my thought process looking at this. First of all, looking at this right here, none of these are any good because I'm looking at when these were posted. This is, they do it in chronological with most recently posted. That's how I've got it set here. The most recent one of these posted was, 4 days ago? Today's the 2nd, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days ago. 5 days ago. That is an eternity on this website. You need to submit the same day. Really, you need to submit the same hour one of these is posted. That really is how fast you need to be. I have talked to authors who have said they will get more than 200 auditions, especially in this price range. They'll get 200 plus auditions in the first day. That's a lot of audio coming at you. And in fact, people will complain, "Oh, there was this thing up and then it disappeared. This book disappeared. Does that mean they hired somebody?" It could mean that. It could mean that person was overwhelmed. Their email inbox was overwhelmed with the number of auditions coming in because ACX generates an email every time the author gets a new audition. So imagine just getting 200 emails blasting you in a single day. So they'll get overwhelmed and they'll take the project down until they can sort of listen to what's there. And honestly, they'll probably listen to the first 20 auditions and they'll pick the one that they like from there. So you got to be early. You want to be one of those first 20 auditions that get in, because otherwise they're not going to hear you. And if they don't hear you, they can't hire you. So, but let's take a look. Let's pretend that all of these are fresh, brand new. These 10 projects were just posted. First, my initial instinct would be a no on this one. The New Vegetable Gardener. Everything you need to grow your first or next bounty of tasty organic vegetables. My instant thought would be no, because how-tos, there's millions of these how-to books on exercise routines, diets, daily meditations, short little travel guides on little cities and stuff around the world. You'll learn to spot these things, these little short things. However, this thing is not short. It's in the 5 to 10 hour bucket. However, fully reading this title, I got another sense. And that sense is that this might be AI slop. The New Vegetable Gardener. Everything you need to grow your first or next bounty of tasty organic vegetables, regardless, regardless of your budget, experience, or available space. I'm just curious. We got to look at it. Let's, no ratings. It was posted about a week ago. Hold on. Might be sneezing here. I think I muted that in time. Okay. Okay. We're gonna look at the script because I just have such a strong. Maybe this is not. Maybe this is not AI. It is something that you have to be aware of now. AI is, in theory, against the terms of service for Amazon Kindle ACX. Like, it is against the terms of service. So why that matters for you, if it's per finished hour and you get paid, you kind of don't care. If you do read an AI slop book and you get paid and then it gets struck and taken down 6 months later, kind of whatever, you got paid. Like, obviously the problem comes into play when it's royalty share. And I think that's where a lot of the AI slop pops up. It'll come into royalty share because that requires zero outlay from the rights holder. They generate some slop, they get a narrator to do the real work of narrating it, and then they get royalties for a couple months, and maybe it gets taken down, maybe it gets flagged as AI, and oh well, it cost them nothing. They earned some royalties. They just do it again. They roll another account, they do whatever they need to do, and they do it again. You as the narrator got burned because you missed out on 7 years of royalties. So you gotta watch out for that. Okay, next up, The Black Sun. Here, they have an option for it that they didn't select. Here, use a little bit of emotional intelligence, self-awareness. Have a pause and go like, The Black Sun. Black in what regard? Do you mean like black as in skin color, or do you mean in some kind of metaphorical sense? Here, it says right here, narrator's voice equals hip, urban, upbeat. Those are code words for black in this context. And so obviously I'm not going to audition for that. I'm not the right person for that. That is not to say that a narrator can't narrate any characters who are black or who are a nationality or a background not their own. Audiobook narrators are the sort of one remaining field of acting where you can do that, because it's impossible to have there is no one perfect casting that you can make to where that narrator could narrate any combination of characters with different backgrounds and nationalities and sexualities and gender identities and all of these things. You can't, unless it's you find the perfect genderqueer Soledad O'Brien, who is the perfect sort of mix of every culture on the planet. Maybe that person exists and that person can narrate every audiobook for forever. Sure. But otherwise it's what I can't think of another example, but I believe it is the last remaining place where it's not just okay, it is necessitated by the form of art that hopefully you are doing authentic casting according to the point of view of the author, the point of view of the protagonist. That's where you sort of make a culturally informed casting decision. So, for example, The Hate You Give. Fantastic book. It won Audiobook of the Year in like 2011, no, later than that, 2015, 2016, something like that. That sort of delves deeply into like the modern young black experience in America with police violence and all that kind of stuff. And a black woman, I cannot remember her name right now, a black woman, incredible performance. And that was a culturally appropriate casting to make because the protagonist was a black woman. Obviously, I would not be the right narrator for that. That is not to say that, the audiobook I'll be reading later, there are black women characters in this book. And I certainly don't do a black scent. I don't do anything as offensive or as culturally inappropriate as that. With any accent, with any sort of characterization, you got to put in the work to make sure that what you're doing is respectful, informed by research, informed by, just good natural characterizations of how, of what the human experience actually is. And that's what any narration is about. But certainly when you're crossing cultural lines, you got to take all that into account. So enough of that particular off-ramp there. Let's go to here. Of Flame and Suffering, Wicked Fae, Book 3. Cool looking cover. The thing that gives me pause here is Book 3. First question should be, what happened to the narrator from books 1 and 2? You should, huge alarm bells. Did that person not work out? Did that person... you got to find out, get a sense for what's going on. And so one thing you can do, you can view this title on Amazon. You can look at other stuff by this same author. Book 1, Audible sample. I think you should be able to hear this.
This is Audible.
Of Fae and Wicked Kings by Jada McCrary. Read by Grace Noble, Gregory Salinas, and Anthony Palmini. Author's note. This book mention of suicide.
Okay, cool. They've got a content warning at the beginning there. Okay, so that sounded fine. I'm curious if they're just casting for like one. Let's take a look here. Da-da-da. Audition. Okay, so this is, as you heard in that little introduction, this is a multicast production, and they are auditioning for a character. So, and it's British RP. Very posh British accent there. So this seems fine. You got to temper your expectations. It's not going to be, you're not reading the whole book. You're reading a, quote, minor side character. But for book 4, it looks like you're going to be doing a dual narration, a duet style narration. So you'll get like half a book out of book 4. But in book 3, you probably only have, 1,000 or so words, depending on how minor they are. But this is fine, especially if you're just sort of getting started, getting into it. This would reduce the burden of having to do an entire book for your first production. It would reduce the burden of a lot of the nuts and bolts of production because someone else is going to be handling the collation, the sort of putting together of all the different parts from the different people. That's a big job. My last book, I did that for a duet narration. I was doing the putting together of all the different parts. Great potential first gig for a newer narrator right there. The Alcoholic's Survival Guide. this sort of, yeah, in your self-help sort of, I'd be interested. Okay, we've got a bunch of letters before the author's name, so that's a good sign that the book is like actually backed by science here. Dr. Michael McMullen, DNP, FNP, PMHNP, BC, a practicing psychiatric mental health provider. Okay, so this is probably going to get deep. I would imagine you're going to get a workout in some psychological, like drug interaction, like all kinds of fun terminologies. Also, if you have any personal issues, I don't want to say like trigger warning type stuff, but content, if you've got content sensitivities to what will probably include, some sad anecdotes and or, discussion of tragic events. Obviously, addiction is going to be the main sort of thesis of this book. Keep that in mind if that's something that you've got issues with here. Noble Truths, Noble Path, the heart essence of the Buddha's original teachings. This would be something that I would avoid, except for it is long. Like usually when you see this stuff, they're super short, and so it's like, all right, no. Watch out for this. Under 3 hours. How short are we talking here? Super short. So here, I recommend, if you're going to do something like this, if you're going to do one of these really, really, really short projects, do it under a pseudonym. That is my recommendation. 0.4 hours. That's so short. One thing to think of, to keep in mind here. I don't know if this is done by default in ACX because I've never done a project this short. But the industry standard is for audiobooks, the minimum that you will be paid is for 1 hour. So even if the book only comes out to be 0.4 hours, 24 minutes or whatever that works out to be, even if it's only 24 minutes long, you should be paid for a full hour worth of work. That's how audiobooks get paid for the on the short end of things. So there's that point to make. The other point to make is about like why to use a pseudonym. And that is, in this industry, if you want to sort of like move your career to the next level, the way to do that for many people, the path is to get into a big publishing house. Your Blackstone, your Simon & Schuster, your Penguin, those big publishing houses where like potentially like that's where the big money is or whatever. And when it's time to start having conversations with those casting directors, they don't want to talk to brand new people because, you're not tested. You're inexperienced. Like they don't know if you're going to be sticking around and doing this 5 years from now. Natural that they want to, have a little bit of a wall up before they start talking to you. So the number of books that you want to have in your portfolio before you start even considering bothering these casting directors at the bigger publishers used to be the number that I would hear is like 25 audiobooks. Nowadays, the number keeps going up, but nowadays I hear like the number should maybe be closer to 40. And that's, that's potential. That's a lot. That's a lot of work. It does demonstrate that like you probably have a lot of repeat clients who are coming back to you for series, and that's obviously a good sign. But here's the thing. If you meet a casting director and you say, hey, I've got 40 books. They go, oh, wow, this person's like they're a serious narrator. They've been at it for a while. 40 books. That's amazing. And maybe you made a good impression and they're like, cool, I'm going to look them up. I'm going to check them out. And if they go and they see that your portfolio is full of things that are 0.4 hours long, they are going to feel like you misrepresented your portfolio to them. They're going to feel like you were dishonest, that you were exaggerating your body of work, which you were. I don't call this an audiobook. I call this like a brochure, a pamphlet. This is not an audiobook. An audiobook, like 6 hours. That's an audiobook. Like your average, you need to be able to average all of your audiobooks. And if it ain't at least 6 hours, then you need to start filtering some of this type of work out or move that over to a pseudonym. And that way you can talk and say like, hey, I've done 25 audiobooks, and then I've done 20 like shorter projects under this pseudonym. So they can like, oh, okay, I understand that. And they'll also think like, that's smart. Like, this person's smart. They've got business sense. And we might check out that audition that just came in. So yeah, I'm not saying don't take these kinds of jobs, because again, if you book this at $250, you're going to get paid for a minimum of 1 hour. And I mean, this would only take me about an hour to produce. And so you want to pay me $250 for 1 hour of work? Hell yeah. I will do that every day, all day, so long as I can. Keep in mind, just based on the cover here, that I am probably not the right narrator for this. But that's you get the point. That's all I got. That's all I got to say on that there. Caleb's Shadow, Inside Position, Book 1. Is this like a gay romance? I don't want to make any assumptions here, but can tend to be. God, that's a lot of notes from the author. They want a separate narrator for each character. Be careful. If you're newer, be careful about getting into the producer role for any kind of multicast. The amount of work, the amount of extra work that gets on there, especially if it's anything that's close to line by line, where like, okay, if this character speaks at any time, it switches to this other narrator. Like the line by line editing work, that, oh my God, I can't even imagine doing that. The only stuff that I've done that's multicast is duet, and it's been chapter by chapter, where I narrate an entire chapter, she narrates an entire chapter. And very rarely are there like switches within one chapter. Again, unless you have a lot of experience editing podcasts, stuff like that, don't take on the producer role for something like this. Be one of the other smaller characters, but do not try to take on one of the producer roles for a multicast production if this is your first 10 books. Don't do it. Just saving you some heartache. Otherwise, this seems like a good project. Love seeing a book 1. Love to see that. You love to sort of set up your long-term pipeline potentially with more work. That's how you set yourself up for a career in this thing. SCEL, cool cover. Good length, good cover. Already got some ratings. You can be a little bit skeptical because this book was published over a year ago, or almost a year ago, rather. Almost a year ago. Date originally posted. Wait, what's going on here? Has this really been up this long? Okay. Yeah. So, again, we're pretending all of this stuff was posted today, but this stuff truly has been up here forever. This has been up here for like 7 weeks, if my math is anywhere close to right. So that's an eternity in the audiobook world. But if not for that, this would probably be a fine project. It looks fine to me. How to Become a Truck Driver for Hollywood, a must guide. A must guide to employment in Hollywood film production. A must guide. A must read guide? So this is probably AI slop. Like, I can't, like, this kind of typo in the fucking title, and it's on the cover of the book. Let's look at the script. I just want to see. Oh God, what the fuck am I looking at? What? Why is this the script? It's a screenshot of this guy's like... All right. Here's the thing. if you think about the kind of people you want to work with. Do you want to work with someone who posts it's not just that it's a screenshot, it's that it's a PDF of a screenshot of his dashboard with just a bunch of shit in it? Like, do you want to work with someone who has a typo on his book cover? Do you want to work with someone like that? Like, no shade to Scott and Lisa, but like, what are you doing? I don't want to work with these people. And then there's this: spiritual warfare prayers, scripture-filled prayers for deliverance, healing, and freedom through Jesus Christ. How short is this? 1.8 hours. Again, anything. There are so many like meditations and prayer book, like all of these things under 3 hours. Knock yourself out. If this appeals to you, if you think you'd have fun reading it, knock yourself out. I recommend using a pseudonym, again, just because it's so short. Also, think about the content of your portfolio when viewed holistically. My portfolio, I haven't updated my website in a while, but let's take a look at the website here. God, I was about 40 pounds heavier there. So my portfolio, as we see here, is almost exclusively fantasy and sci-fi. This year, USS Freedom, USS Resilience, USS Ike, USS Washington, all of these are in the same series. 3-player game, Stand on Xanadu. There's many, many, many more in that series. Ruins of Fortune, Gateway to Galdish, Fate's Tempest. Those are all in the same series. Mortal Shells, Winston Apocalypse, Accidental Healer, Interview with Death. Those are all in the same series. Like, all of these things show, like, even if you land on this website and you hadn't heard my voice, but you saw that all of this was in my portfolio, you would kind of start to get a sense in your head of what my voice might sound like. Even the little one-offs here. I've got a couple of memoirs here. Final Engagement, A Marine's Last Mission and the Surrender of Afghanistan. And then here, With Reckless Abandon, Memoirs of a Boat-Obsessed Life by Captain Jim Sharp. Like, just imagining the kinds of voice that might read a military memoir and then a maritime nautical memoir. All of this sort of tells a story about the kind of voice that I might be giving you, to where if you're an author who's looking for a narrator and you're not wanting to go through the zoo that is ACX, seeing this, if you are a sci-fi or fantasy author, just not even hitting play on any of these, but just looking at this, you might go like, oh shit, like, this is obviously my guy. Think about your portfolio in that regard. And I say that because this kind of thing, if you're wanting to do like cozy murder mysteries or, trashy, and I don't say that in a derogatory way, but like trashy, like fantasy romance where like, on the cover is like a sexy minotaur. Like, knock yourself out, do all that stuff, but think how that will look next to this in your portfolio. That's going to look super, super weird. And in fact, this rights holder probably wouldn't appreciate it to later find this next to sexy romantasy in your portfolio. Like, if someone like listened to this and then they go like, oh, wow, that was a really great narration. What else has that person narrated? Have they narrated other books of prayers? I want to check that out. And they go like, oh, there's a sexy minotaur. Like, think about that stuff, man. You got to think about it. This is like, it's more of like a broader, like, it's a marketing discussion really, but like you as a narrator, you are running a small business. You are your own CEO. You are running a small business. And so the marketing department is you. And you gotta have these thoughts in your head. You gotta have meetings with your marketing department from time to time. So if you're gonna do something like this, consider a pseudonym because it's short and just because of the content. Usually, like the number one reason people usually use pseudonyms is for like erotica or like some of that, or if they do like crazy like grindcore horror, like really just graphic shit, they'll use a pseudonym for that. And then they're doing, children's books or whatever, YA, fantasy. Anyway, that is the cue on ACX. I'll quit yapping because I want to get to work on a real project. Actually, we need to double check on this job that came in. All-American for SoCal car dealership. Let's take a look here. Family-owned car dealerships looking to build a brand around the American dream. Plays on local cable. What's the $400? In perpetuity? Brother. And right here, they can connect with Source Connect 3.9, not 4.0. 4.0 has been out for like 2 years. Get your shit together. You can use Source Connect Bridge. It is a pain in the ass. It has worked fine for me, but I'm on Source Connect 4.0. Source Connect, they need to get their shit together. Like, that they rolled out a like numbered version update and they don't talk to each other is like, what a mess. What a disaster. And I think I just paid my annual. That's another thing. $400, I think, is what I paid for the annual version of the plan. It's like, come on, guys. Like, get your shit together. But whatever. Looking for a rugged storyteller. Do not rush. Take your time. So this is a bummer. Like, car dealers, trucks type stuff, that is in my wheelhouse. That is something that I think I read well. But saying Southern California car dealerships in perpetuity, that's not worth $400. That's worth a lot more. It's not a question. I would be having a little bit of a think about it if it was $4,000. But at $400, absolutely not. In perpetuity, broadcast, SoCal, car dealerships, like if you can get like into that circuit to where you're like really, really wheeling and dealing on car dealerships, like those people can make insane livings. So I'm not going to conflict myself out in perpetuity for $400. Like, you can get the fuck out of here. Usage, the fuck out of here in perpetuity. Like, what are you gonna be running that ad forever? No, you're not. You're just lazy and you think you can get away with getting an in perpetuity agreement. Like, get the fuck out of here. These fucking people, man. Local ad for assembly candidate would like confident sounding VOs, but not overdone. Like, okay. Okay. Who is the candidate? Northern California. We're gonna look up this candidate off screen. I don't want to give an ad to Okay. Okay, we're not going to read this. Okay, for politicals, really, really, really important. Used to be that for political voiceovers, you could cross the aisle. You could read for both Republican and Democrat, conservative and progressive candidates. That has not been the case for 10 years. You need to pick a lane and stick to it. If you don't have a lane, then political voiceover is probably not for you. I don't do politics. Do you buy groceries? Do you do you use a doctor? Like, then yeah, you're doing politics every day. You need to pay a little bit of attention, do a little bit of research, do a simple questionnaire that'll put you on the little 4-point plot spectrum, and just like, yeah, interact with, do some introspection, and figure out what your values are, and align yourself with that. That is to say, yeah. A thing that I'll say on this channel is voice actor, know thyself. So knowing where you stand as far as, reading for politics, know where your lines are for the kind of products that you're going to read for. Like, are you going to read for alcohol brands? Are you going to read for tobacco brands? Are you going to read for a casino, a brick and mortar casino? Are you going to read for a casino that lives on your phone? A Polymarket, a DraftKings, a Kalshi? Are you going to read for like a predatory payday loan provider? A buy now, pay later, a Kalshi or a Klarna? Are you going to read for, like, you need to figure out like what all those things are, because when it comes up in your feed and there's a dollar amount attached to it, like, you shouldn't have to make those morality judgment calls there in the moment when there's dollar signs in your eyes. Like, you should know what your lines are. I know what mine are. And it's none, baby. No, there are things that I won't read. But politics is definitely something that you need to know where you stand for what kinds of candidates you will and won't read for. And you need to know how to, just like when you see it like this, I was quickly able to bring up the candidate's name, do 20 seconds of research, and go like, oh, I'm not going to read for that candidate. Like, I make no secret about it on this channel, because I will, from time to time, read political ad copy on this channel. And so, if you disagree with my politics, that's fine. I will say that my politics aligns with most of the voice acting industry, most of the acting industry. Like, if you're going to be in this career field and you have wildly different politics from me, I think that's great that we can all have political differences. But if you don't believe in the humanity of people who are different than you, then that's not politics. You're not a good person. Please experience empathy for once in your life. I'm begging you. Okay, enough of that. We're passing on this one. That means we'll cool there. So let's move on to, what's my uptime here? How long have I been yapping? 1:45. That was supposed to be quick. Okay. We're going to do some audiobook work here. And now we're going to talk through some of the process that's involved with the first steps of setting up your project, setting up everything that you need for an audiobook. And this is a real audiobook that I'm really, really narrating for a client. In fact, let's open up that last tab. This client here, Mark Wayne McGinnis, for whom I've read, I think, like 8 books. Might actually be 9 now. This is the USS Hamilton series, which, did they drop the USS Hamilton series? No, they still have it there. USS Hamilton series, book 11, book whatever. So this is like book 13 or so in the USS Hamilton series. And it's an excellent book, or excellent series. This series is, I need to actually look here. What number is it in this series? I'm actually going to pull this up on a different window because I don't want you to see all my secrets. Where's my projects? Here we go. Have we not done that yet? Okay, so this will be book 17. We're going to do this because we need the copyright information, even though we haven't opened up the Here we go. So this will be very simply, actually, let's open up the text. Sorry, I'm doing all this stuff off screen here, but I need to make sure that I'm doing the right. I need to open this up in my email, because that don't seem right. Where is you? Excuse me. Here we go. Okay, real simple, just read that. Okay. Okay, really simple. In fact, let's, actually, we're not even going to try to copy paste that. We're just going to read it as it is. Okay. Okay, so here's what we do. When I get something from an author, it comes across as a big old text document. Sometimes it's a PDF, sometimes it's a .doc, whatever you got. And you can see here that the spacing line to line is pretty tight. It is in a sans serif font, but it's a pretty small, tight font. There are 220 pages as the document currently stands. And if we go all the way down to the end, there's going to be some afterward stuff where it's like a little bit of marketing. We hope you've enjoyed this. If you've enjoyed this book, please leave a review. Da, 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 da. That stuff obviously does not get read for an audiobook. So what I do is I open this in my open source text editor, because I don't use Microsoft stuff if I can avoid it. Where is my audiobook backups? Here we go, Thunderhead. So I have already done the edits here, but what I do, oops, oh God, stop. So what I do here, let's just do that so we can just see this here. So here is the document. I've deleted all the stuff before chapter 1, table of contents, copyright page, acknowledgments, all that stuff, and I've deleted all the stuff that was there at the end. It's just the text. Then I hit a Control A, select all, and I change it to Calibri, because that is, whatever, it's Calibri, trust me. Calibri, font 16, and then I go into format and I do paragraph, and I change the line spacing to not double space, but 1.5 space. This is just what I've found works for me to make a nice, I don't know, a manageable text size when I'm reading it on my tablet. And I will actually show you my tablet and what the text looks like on the screen. Right here, chapter 1, Coyote Crossing Ranch. Like, that's legible for me. I hope that you can see it there. But yeah, this is a Kindle Fire HD 10, I think is the model here. This one is jailbroken. And that's why I'm able to have this particular app that I used to read, which is called, I think it would be pronounced Xodo, Xodo. This is not an endorsement. In fact, I've got some annoyances with the app, but it's available on the Kindle or the Android, Google Marketplace, whatever thing. And it works fine. I think that if you're on an iPad or something like that, you would probably be using something like iAnnotate, is a popular one that I've heard of. But for me, these settings right here, Calibri, 16, spacing of 1.5, that works for 95% of the projects that I do. Sometimes if they've given me something with weird margins, genuinely, the way I avoid issues with weird margins is that rather than opening the document and like deleting the stuff before and after, what I actually do is I select what I want, and I copy and paste that into a new document. And that new document's like standard. When I do a new document, that's always what I'm working off of. So that's how I make sure that every single book, so like I could open up on my tablet here, I could open up the last 20 books that I've done, and they would all look the same. The text blocks, the amount of words per page, it's all super, super consistent in a way that works with my workflow. If you are good with like having tighter line spacing or whatever it is, like, yeah, just find out what works for you. For me, this is like the most legible thing that I have found, and it works for me. So that's the first thing. Getting your document, getting it formatted, all that good stuff. Next up is there's some minor stuff with the projects, but I'll show you. Actually, let's open up the project. So it's really important for your workflow in this job, whether it's on the voiceover side or the audiobook side, to have to find ways to streamline your work. Templates are so key. So for example, this is basically my audiobook template. There are, I know it's really small text, but over here on the left, I've got chapters, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through 30. That's sort of the default, is like, we'll just start with 30 chapters. Some books are longer, some books are shorter. If they're shorter, I'll delete chapters. If they're longer, I'll grab a bunch of chapters and I'll do a duplicate command. Really simple. This book happens to have 30 chapters, so like the template, like this project's ready to go. There's also no introduction chapter or anything like that. What I've got here, these little clips here, this is room tone, not silence, but room tone. And this is what I use to make sure that my the heads and tails, all the gaps that start and end chapters and serve as gaps for anything in the middle of a chapter where they're like the author put in a break. These make sure that all of those gaps are of uniform length, and they're not digital dead full-on silence, because that'll get you kicked back by ACX quality checks. But instead they're room tone recorded in this lovely booth of mine. All that's to say, this is all set up for the project itself. I'll briefly drag over my big mix window here. On my master bus here, I've got my mastering stack. Starts with RX denoise, which will cut down on some of the room noise that does exist in my room, even though my booth is very quiet. This knocks it down by like another 6 dB, particularly when I've got my my HVAC, my fans running to keep the oxygen circulating through here. This will cut down on that some. I've got my mouth declick. I've got the de-esser, because sometimes my sibilance is a little out of control. And then I've got a couple layers of compressor and limiter. Everything is really gentle. Nothing extreme is happening. You can look at my compressor here. It's not even kicking right now because nothing is armed. If I arm this, you can see, no, you can't. If I arm this, now you can see that it's not kicking too hard. Even if like I really punch something, it's never doing any more than 6 dB or so of reduction. And again, I've got multiple, and like if you look at my EQ, yeah, I'm doing high and low pass of the very extreme ends. The human voice, especially with the way things are going to get crunched down by ACX, you don't need all this information. Nothing below 50 hertz is something people are going to hear anyway, and it's all just noise. So I'm not going to do a full like FX stack walkthrough, but the important point is that stack is something I have saved as a template. So every time I do a new audiobook, I don't have to redo my mastering stack. I just open the template, and then I do save as, and I save that as like whatever the new project is. So in this case, very simple naming convention of 057, because this is my 57th audiobook, and then the name of the book, USS Thunderhead. Really simple. Trying to think of anything else that I'll do sort of in preparation. As far as, pre-reading the book, all that good stuff, these are sort of like the true basics of it. But yeah, I don't have a lot of file management or anything like that. I've got the scripts save. A neat little trick that I do for these books where I've been reading the whole series forever. I've got a search folder set up just for this series. So here is the USS Hamilton series. I've got 4 long-running series where I've narrated a bunch of books for the same author. But for the USS Hamilton series, for example, I have narrated 1, 2, that's what, 9? 10. This is my 10th book. Holy shit. It's my 10th book in this series for me to narrate. This series has had 2 other narrators, but I have narrated more than both of those other narrators combined. So it is my series. Thank you very much. I'm thrilled. What a privilege. Because it's a great series. But sometimes, and I do this. These are new copies that exist elsewhere, but I put them all together in multiple folders here because sometimes in book, I think 16 that I'm on here, sometimes a character or a place, some kind of proper noun will come up, or someone will speak who we haven't heard from in many books. Some place will be revisited that hasn't been visited since book 10. And it's like, I don't remember how I said that or how I voiced that character from 7 books ago. So it's very, very convenient to have a search folder. So for example, let's say, I'm trying to think of a character here. I don't even know if the bosun has ever been in this series. Has the bosun? Nope, she was gone. So let's look at the first time that an ensign was ever mentioned. Ensign is a rank in the United States Navy and many other navies around the world, and it is a rank in the U.S. Space Navy, which is the organization where most of our drama takes place. And the rank ensign has been mentioned in 7 of these 10 books that we've got here. And just having a search folder set up for big series just makes finding a term across multiple books much, much easier. So, so if I had a name to go with this, and I can't even... okay, when was the first time? There's an outrageous name here. Thunderballs. Only in 4. What's the earliest reference to Thunderballs, though? USS Ike. That's the earliest reference that I have read. Now, he actually predates when I was narrating it. I don't think I ever narrated Captain Thunderball's voice because, spoiler alert, he's dead by the time I start narrating this series. But his legacy, his progeny, is still involved in the story. And so, anyway, that's just a showcase of like, I'll show you here. I would grab this and I would go Control F, find in this window, bring that over here so you can see, and then I would go Thunderballs, search, boom, there it is. So just imagine that this is like, say, some like alien race name or some kind of, because this is sci-fi. There's lots of like crazy alien names and voices and things like that. There's a lot of stuff to sort of keep organized in a big series like this. And so just having little processes like that, that's actually a pretty new, having that multi-layered folder thing is a relatively new process for me. And it has saved me a ton of time sort of doing research on, it's crazy the idea that you have to research stuff that you have done. But when you've narrated 57 audiobooks, you get down into that. So, we're about ready to start narrating. The last thing I'll do here is I will show you my little productivity tracker here. This is, let's go 057. This is USS Thunderhead. This is my big, giant, mega spreadsheet here. The only columns that matter right now is really just this one here, this column. This just tracks, I've got a little timer, a little stopwatch thing here. I hit start when I begin narrating, and I hit stop when I stop, and I just track how long it takes me to narrate as I go. That's it. I do have a fancy column here that predicts how long it's going to take me to narrate a page based on past performance, basically. There's a lot of interesting prediction happening behind the scenes in multiple, link dependencies from cell to cell. But this chapter 1 should take us about 40 minutes to narrate. And so, without further ado, let me introduce you to the world of the USS Hamilton series. This book is USS Thunderhead. It is the 17th. I keep forgetting. The 17th or so book in the series. It is the 17th book in the USS Hamilton series. It follows the exploits of Captain Galvin Quintos. If you were to start this series, you would have a little bit of a whiplash because the first two narrators said the name of the protagonist differently. And so the reviews on the first one that I narrated ripped me apart for getting it wrong because people had heard, 7 or 8 books of his name being pronounced Quintos. But when I started getting ready to narrate the book, I asked the author, hey, how do you pronounce the name of the protagonist? And he sent me a voice recording, a voice memo, saying Galvin Quintos. And so no shade to those other two narrators because they're both very good. They're both very good, still working narrators. But just circumstances arose to where the mantle was passed to me. So now I'm narrating this series. Highly recommend it if you are into hard or hard-ish sci-fi. This is a good option for you. It's not super hard and crunchy, but like it's good stuff. It doesn't get too crazy and wild as far as like things that are, totally not feasible. Again, it's hard-ish sci-fi. There are aliens do exist. Aliens have made contact. There are alliances that span galaxies in this world. As far as what we're going to hear today, because I'm going to narrate chapter 1, and then we'll see where we are there. But what we're going to hear today is going to be sort of, obviously it's chapter 1. It's going to be some scene setting type stuff. But what we're not going to hear is anything that should require any kind of content or trigger warning. The series, generally speaking, it doesn't get too crazy with detailed description of violence. There are no gratuitous, romance scenes going on. Usually there's sort of a fade to black sort of sense. There are, on occasion, implications of potentially troublesome, like sort of like violence, abuse, prisoner torture, that kind of stuff. It's never it's never gratuitous. And obviously, if anything like that comes up on stream, I will either give an extensive content warning, or I would just skip that scene and narrate it later off stream, something like that. But I'm just trying to think if there's going to be any kind of reference to that kind of stuff with this book. I don't think so. As far as like what level of like maturity this series is, there are a few F words here and there, but it doesn't ever devolve into like slurs, or it's not gratuitous by any means. It's sort of right on the line of PG-13 R. That's generally like, usually like a PG-13 movie will get like, you get one fuck. That's all you get. And that's the feel of these books. Like this book will end up being 9 or 10 hours, and there's probably 2 or 3, I haven't checked, but there's probably 2 or 3 instances of the F word in here. It's not gratuitous. It's real to how people talk. I was in the military. Military people say fuck a lot. So if anything, this is restrained. So we're gonna arm track 1. Actually, we gotta read the opening credits. I like to go straight from the opening credits into the actual text, because that continuity of voice as you're just starting, I think, is important. My little Fitbit's battery is low, so let's start that charging. So let me double check to make sure I'm going to say the right thing. And in fact, I might sort of do we'll do a quick copy and paste. Ooh, what's the quickest way to do this? Let's open this up in backups, let's open it right here on you. Please open it. Okay. Copy this. Oh my god, it's not going to copy. Enter, and we go. USS Thunderhead. Please stop. Wow, wow, that's annoying. USS Thunderhead. USS Hamilton, book 17. And then this will say, written by Mark Wayne McGinnis, narrated by Jimmy Moreland. This is a very, very standard. ACX actually will provide you this, except for the project hasn't been created in ACX yet. But this is a very standard. This is just what you get. So let's read. I'm going to just go ahead and hit record, then I'm going to Alt-Tab so I can see it. USS Thunderhead. USS Hamilton, Book 17. Written by Mark Wayne McGinnis. Narrated by Jimmy Moreland. Let's listen to the way I said my own name. Hardest thing for me to say is my own name. Narrated by Jimmy Moreland. That's fine. We'll just do that. We'll do that. We're going to call that length 8. I'm a bit obsessive about... Sorry that you're getting flashbanged with all the changes there. Close those two. And go, There we go. All right, let us narrate chapter 1. Again, this is going to take about 40 minutes. And again, you are seeing and hearing this is the full good, bad, and ugly of what narration is like. I'm going to be doing punch and roll recording. So what you're going to hear is basically whenever I make a mistake, I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to, using my little hotkeys on my keyboard here, you can see my little playhead, this little cursor, this blinking white line. You're going to see that. I'm going to back it up a little bit, and then I'm going to hit record, and I'm going to basically start talking along with myself for 2 seconds, and then it will sort of merge, and it'll go from me talking along with myself to actually recording the new take that hopefully continues on its merry way. That's how 90% of this will be recorded. Occasionally, I will do one spot of a long roll recording, and it's just to get through spots where the sentence structure or whatever it is causes me to stumble a lot. I'll do some long form recording in those spots just to get through it. But punch and roll recording, this is how most self-producing pros work. I think if you're working with, a big giant production house, yeah, you're probably doing long roll because someone else is probably editing your stuff. But for people like me, editing my own stuff, this is how we work. Let me see if I need to shift anything here. I do feel like this mic is a little bit lower than it usually is. Let me see if I can do this without exploding your speakers out there. I apologize if that... You know what? We're going to mute this temporarily. Muting. Okay, we are back. It might not look much different on the video, but I promise this is enough of a change to where I feel much, much, much better about how this is. This is here. Okay, so we're going to hydrate. You might also see me using this thing here. This is a little nebulizer. It's just a simple saline solution that goes in here. I live in Maine. It gets quite dry. And so that's a good way to sort of quickly hydrate the vocal cords. True hydration, much like peace, comes from within, though. And then I'll also be using these guys, ice drops. These are just little mint drops where the main ingredient is like xylitol, I think, which just naturally causes like saliva production. And it's great for overcoming a little bit of dry mouth that you might have. All right. Let's do this. Let's jump into the world of the USS Hamilton. I'm trying to think if I have any more scene setting to do for you. Captain Galvin Quintos is he's a captain in the U.S. Space Navy. We're going to drop you right in. I think we're probably going to meet Hardy right away. Yeah, we're going to meet Hardy right away. So, Hardy is Captain Quintos's robot friend. Within his robot brain lives the soul, the essence, the brain signature of like basically a Boston longshoreman. So you're gonna get to hear and maybe laugh at my interpretation of the John Hardy character, which is a very fun. He's like a comic relief. Like he's from Boston. Hey, go fuck yourself. Kind of that kind of a character. He's Bill Burr. He's Bill Burr in a robot form. So we'll have some fun with that. But let's get into it. Let me start my timer. Chapter 1. Colorado, USA. Coyote Crossing Ranch. Captain Galvin Quintos. Hardy dropped rebellion to 500 feet, and I wished he hadn't. From an elevated altitude, you could pretend the property was 1,000 acres of northern Colorado foothills. The aspen groves had gone bare for winter, meadows dusted white, the creek winding through it all like a scar that had healed pretty. From up high, Coyote Crossing still looked like home. At 500 feet, the lie fell apart. The cabin was gone. What remained were 2 stone chimneys standing 30 feet apart, connected by nothing but ash and charred timber. We're going to stop and we're going to fix this one little part here in the middle. This guy? Hardy dropped rebellion. Yeah, just that. Everything else here is good. Let's punch and roll. Where am I? I also need to zoom a little bit. I feel like I'm... Oh, it's because I've got my lights. I've got like a little bit of glare like right here in my face, which is making this... Let me just bring my brightness up on my tablet. Come on. There we go. That'll be easier to read. Maybe I angle this. There. Okay. And where am I? Nothing but ash and charred timber. And charred what? And charred... Nothing but ash, charred timber. And nothing but ash and charred timber. Here we go. Stone chimneys standing 30 feet apart. Chimneys standing 30 feet apart, connected by nothing but ash and charred timber. The vaulted ceiling that Gail and I used to argue was too drafty in December. Here we go. Nothing but ash and charred timber. The vaulted ceiling that Gail and I used to argue was too drafty in December. But ash and timber. The vaulted but ash and charred timber. The vaulted ceiling that Gail and I used to argue was too drafty in December, gone. The kitchen where she'd once thrown a spatula at me for criticizing her eggs, gone. The front porch where I'd sit with a bourbon and listen to elk bugle in the distance, blackened deck planks. Listen to elk bugle in the distance, blackened deck planks curling upward like dead fingers. The barn had also taken hits. One wall had collapsed inward, and the roof sagged at a 45-degree angle that said it wouldn't survive the next heavy snow. The equipment shed was a crater. The fence line along the south pasture... The equipment shed was a crater. The fence line along the south pasture... The equipment shed was a crater. The fence line along the south pasture, the one I'd spent an entire weekend repairing with actual hand tools because Gail said it would be therapeutic, had been ripped apart by plasma fire. Pylor pirates, 38 of them, armed to the teeth, descending on a Colorado ranch in the middle of a blizzard to grab a 19-year-old girl, my niece. Because Sonia had done what Sonia does. She'd hit back harder than anyone expected, crippled their entire clan's infrastructure, and made powerful enemies who crossed star systems to collect the debt. Gale, Sonia, and Turnpike had held them off. Sonia had taken anyway. Then Gale got her back. The details of how The details of how all that happened still made my stomach turn when I thought, The details of how that all happened, got her back. The details of how all that happened, keep missing my place. Got her back. The details of how all that happened still made my stomach turn when I thought about them too long, so I tried not to. 3 months ago. The cabin was still smoldering when the U.S. Space Navy pulled Gale and Sonia off the property. Nobody had been back since, until today, and not because I wanted to be here. "Cap, I'm putting her down in the North Meadow," Hardy said from the helm station. "Least amount of debris." "Fine." The chronobot. The who? Let's hear it. Hold on. "Cap, I'm putting her down in the North Meadow." A little too much gravel there for the opening line of Hardy. "And not because I wanted to be here." "Cap, I'm putting her down in the North Meadow," Hardy said. Okay. I knew this was going to eventually happen. So I'm from Texas. About 4 years ago, I moved to beautiful Maine. And at first, the Maine accent was completely inscrutable to me. Couldn't clock it, couldn't hold it down. Like, what the hell is this alien accent? However, at first blush, it is somewhat reminiscent of a Boston accent. But when I first moved up here, like, Boston was Boston, and Maine was still, like, it was still weird and alien enough that if I tried to do I had my sort of stock box Boston, sort of Bill Burr, The Departed, Ben Affleck type of Boston accent. But I've been up in Maine long enough that it's starting to shift more to a Maine accent, which is a real problem for Hardy, because Hardy, trying to make Hardy a Mainer. Oh, that wouldn't be right. No, can't do that. Okay. Not because I wanted to be here. All right, let's do it. Not because I wanted to be here. "Cap, I'm putting it down in the North Meadow." North. That's Maine. Oh no. North. Okay. Oh no. Maine is creeping into my sense of a Boston accent. Oh no. Okay, let's try it. Not because I wanted to be here. "Cap, I'm putting it down in the North. Cap, I'm putting it down in the North." All right, we got to do the pencil trick. I did this at the very beginning of stream, but if you're new here, a very, very, very old sort of diction and voice training trick is if you're having trouble with something, put a pencil in your mouth. "Cap, I'm putting her down in the North Meadow. Cap, I'm putting her down in the North Meadow. In the North Meadow. In the North Meadow." Let's try it. "And not because I wanted to be here." "Cap, I'm putting her down in the North Meadow," Hardy said from the helm station. "Least amount of debris." "Fine." Look at that. Works like a charm. Whoever discovered that, what a freak. "Least amount of debris." "Fine." The chronobot glanced over, his faceplate showing the John Hardy visage, Boston Irish features, perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, the expression of a man who'd seen everything twice and wasn't impressed by any of it. "You want to do another pass first? Get the full picture?" "I got the full..." "The pass first? Get the full picture?" "I got the full picture, Hardy. Land the ship." He landed the ship. Rebellion's landing struts settled into frozen ground with a groan. He landed the ship. Rebellion's landing struts settled into frozen ground with a groan. That's the problem. He landed the ship. Rebellion's landing struts settled into frozen ground with a groan of hydraulics. Through the forward view. Excuse me. Holy. All right. Here we go. Ground with a groan of hydraulics. Groan of hydraulics. Ground with a groan of hydraulics. Through the forward viewport. With a groan of hydraulics. Through the forward viewport, I could see the remains of the barn about 200 yards. Oh my God. Ground with a groan of hydraulics. Through the forward viewport, I could see the remains of the barn about. Through the forward viewport, I could see the remains of the barn about 200 yards south. Beyond it, the two lonely chimneys. A magpie perched. I just had the thought. You know, a big part of writing books is tons of research, tons of just like little bits of research. And so, because people are freaks, man, they'll try to gotcha on anything that they think they can to try to like catch someone. This is wrong. So I know that this author did the research to know that a magpie would be in Colorado at this particular time of year. Like, I just trust that. I trust that old Mark did that research. It's just fun that these details are there. The two lonely chimneys. A magpie perched. Where is that? Where am I? Magpie. There we are. The two lonely chimneys. A magpie perched on one of them, surveying its domain with the casual indifference of something that hadn't lost a goddamn thing. I didn't move from my seat. Hardy powered down the drives, but left. I didn't move from my seat. Hardy powered down the drives, but left life support running. The cockpit went quiet except for the tick of cooling metal and the low whistle of the January wind against the hull. "You know," he said, swiveling his chair toward me, "for a guy who fought his way through 12 Shinta dreadnoughts 3 months ago, you seem awfully Shinta dreadnoughts 3 months ago, you seem awfully reluctant. Shinta dreadnoughts 3 months ago, you seem awfully reluctant to walk across a meadow. Different kind of fight." "Yeah." His faceplate softened, an expression that looked almost human, which, after a decade of practice... An expression that looked almost human, which, after a decade of practice, it probably should. "Worst kind. I know." I stared at the... Okay, we're going to stop and fix this one little repeat here. It probably should. It probably should. After a decade of practice, it probably should. That's fine. "Worst kind. I know." To make a real quick point, the way I said probably, not perfect even in my retake. However, little imperfections, they're not just fine. They're essential. They're what makes the human voice different from AI, and it's what makes you as a narrator unique and individual. So if you're getting into this, if you're narrating and you're spending hours like trying to get every single word of every single sentence absolutely perfect, just chill. Read it as conversationally as you possibly can. Like, I don't know. This is my 57th book. My first 10, maybe even my first 20 books. It's painful for myself to go back and listen to them because I wasn't really reading in my true, authentic voice. It was like I was putting something on. And maybe I still am just a little bit, but I feel like I've tamped that down enough to where the way I'm talking to you right now isn't that different from the way that I'm narrating the story. And that includes all the little imperfections and taking breaths in places that aren't absolutely optimal, but we're humans. Like, we breathe in places that aren't the way you would perfectly script it, and so it's kind of fine. Obviously, if you say something wrong or if you full on stutter or stumble, like, you want to be reading in a way that isn't annoying to listen to, like this stream is. But don't get hung up on, like, oh, the way my R came out there wasn't perfect, or that particular S was a little bit sibilant. Like, get out of your head. So let's move here.
Worst kind. I know.
Okay, worst kind, I know. Where is that? Okay, there we are.
Worst kind.
I know. I stared at the chimneys. We didn't have to come here today. We could have sent a recovery team for Climbo and Turnpike, a couple of SWM Yeah. I stared at the chimneys. We didn't have to come here today. We could have Turnpike, a couple of Okay. Sent a recovery team for Climbo and Turnpike. No, let's reread that. We didn't have to come here today. We could have sent a recovery team for Climbo and Turnpike, a couple of SWM techs with a cargo set. Come on. Sent a recovery team for Climbo and Turnpike, a couple of SWM techs with a cargo shuttle. No, we couldn't. Why the hell not? Because Climbo's mine. Yeah. We couldn't. Why the hell not? Because Climbo's mine. Hardy's voice carried an edge I didn't hear often. The Boston accent thickened when he got emotional, and right now it was thick enough to spread on toast. I'm not sending strangers to retrieve my... He stopped, recalibrated. To retrieve him. I let the silence sit for a moment. Hardy had been relentless about this trip for weeks. Every logistics briefing... Every logistics briefing, every pre-deployment checklist, he'd find a way to work it in. We need to check on the ranch. We have time before Halibard. It's on the way. It wasn't on the way. Colorado was 4,000 miles from the nearest orbital launch facility, and we had a deployment window measured in hours, not days. But Hardy had said mine, and that word... measured in hours, not days. But Hardy, you know what? I need to read that line in Hardy's voice. We need to check on the ranch. We have time before Halibard. It's on the way. No, I like the way that it's because it's still Quintos's thoughts. See, there's space for interpretation everywhere you look. So we're gonna keep reading. Where are we? Measured in hours. Hours, not days. Measured in hours, not days. But Hardy had said mine, and that word coming from a... Mine, and that word coming from a 300-year-old chronobot who technically didn't own anything, not even the chrome plating on his... Not even the chrome plating on his chassis carried weight I couldn't dismiss. All right, I stood. Turnpike first. Call Gail and Sonia. Oh, what Stood. First, Gail and Sonia said he went down somewhere near the south tree line. Multiple. He went down somewhere near the south tree line. Multiple plasma hits. He went down somewhere near the south tree line. Multiple plasma hits. Hardy. What? He went down somewhere near the south tree line. Multiple plasma hits. Hardy confirmed. Already. We're going to go ahead and just read there. Multiple plasma hits. Hardy confirmed. Already heading for the aft ramp. Gale's after-action report said the Pylors concentrated fire on him when he started cutting through their assault team. He was still shooting when his power core failed. Is that admiration I hear? Still shooting when his power core failed. Is that admiration I hear? For a dreadbot? Hardy stopped at the ramp controls. Nah, professional respect. There's a difference. The ramp dropped and Colorado hit me like a slap. 22 degrees, wind out of the northwest, the kind of cold that finds the gaps in your jacket and sets up camp. The sky was that particular in your jacket and sets up camp. The sky was that particular shade of winter blue, pale and hard and endless, that made everything beneath it look small. We walked south. The snow wasn't deep, maybe 4 inches, but underneath it the ground was uneven with blast craters and debris. Twice I stumbled over something buried, a twisted piece of fencing, a chunk of what might have been the equipment shed's wall. The property smelled wrong. Wet char and cold earth where there should have been pine resin and wood smoke. Hardy moved ahead, his heavy frame leaving deep impressions in the snow. His optical sensors swept His optical sensors swept left and right in a pattern I recognized. Search mode. Sonia's report put... who's talking here? Surely this is Hardy. Yeah, it's gotta be. Pattern I recognized. Search mode. Sonia's report put Turnpike's last position near the rock outcropping, southeast of the barn, about 300 yards. Is that too much? Yards. Southeast of the barn, about 300 yards. I think that's fine. That's fun. Yo, what's up? I'm not playing a game. Are you actually watching the stream? I'm hovering. I'm ready. I'm hovering. I'm ready. I dare you. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Yo, what's up? My game, as it were, my game of narrating an audiobook is going great. How are you doing? Yeah. I don't really game on this channel. I've got another channel that I do for gaming. Singing is my hobby. I do quite a lot of singing. A good portion of my annual income is music, but on the stream here we're narrating. If you've seen other like music related channels and it looks familiar, that makes sense because this is Pro Tools. This is where a lot of music production happens. So it's definitely overkill for audiobook narration, which is what we're doing today. But yeah. I probably won't ever do any music on this channel. I think I just like to keep it focused on the voiceover and audiobook stuff, just for people finding it in the future, just to be a little bit consistent on that action. But yeah, if you have any questions about audiobooks or about what the hell I'm doing here, fire away. Otherwise, we're working on a book here. The book is called USS Thunderhead. It's a science fiction, and we're on chapter 1, so you haven't missed much. We're on chapter 1. It's our protagonist is visiting his recently destroyed home, and they're recovering some of their robot friends. So that's what we're doing here. Last position near the rock outcropping, southeast of the barn. Southeast of the barn. Where are we here? Am I playing music on stream for fun or going to be a big streamer? Is this where you hit me with solicitation for your music services? Is that what's coming? Like, I appreciate the hustle. I'm not going to ban you for that, but no, I'm not interested in any custom music if that's what's coming. I already have custom music that I produced. So again, appreciate the hustle and welcome to the channel. But if that's what's coming, I'm all set. Let's get back into it here. Pike's last position near the rock outcropping, southeast of the barn. Southeast of the barn. about 300 yards. Okay. Did I guess it? Did I guess it? All good, all good. I don't mind people hustling, especially when like you've been polite about it. You've made an effort. You've checked it out, seen what's going on. You didn't just pop in, drop a link. So I appreciate that. But best of luck in your search.
Southeast of the barn, about 300 yards.
Southeast of the barn, about 300 yards. Okay, here we go.
Southeast of the barn, about
300 yards. Lead the way. It took us 40 minutes to find him. The dreadbot was half buried under fallen aspen branches and 3 months of accumulated leaves and snow. If Hardy hadn't picked up the faint radiation signature from you're getting close to getting timed out. I do know that I can earn from Twitch. I'm aware of that, but obviously with only one current viewer, that's not really in the cards for me right now. If you're about to try to sell me bot viewers, then go on, make your pitch. It took us 40 minutes to find him. Of accumulated leaves and snow. If Hardy hadn't picked up the faint... Where's that? Let's see here. If Hardy hadn't picked up the faint radiation signature. Here we go. Of accumulated leaves and snow. If Hardy hadn't picked up the faint radiation signature from Turnpike's depleted power core, we'd have walked right past him. The 7-foot combat chassis lay face down in a shallow depression, one arm missing entirely, torn away at the shoulder joint, exactly as Gale had described. Scorch marks covered every visible surface. His armor plating was cratered and buckled from sustained plasma fire. I knelt beside him and brushed leaves off what was left of his targeting array. The optical sensors were dark, cracked, dead glass. "This is a lot of damage," I said. Howdy. This is a lot of damage, I said. Hardy crouched on the other side, already prying open Turnpike's systems access panel. Hardy crouched on the other side, already prying open Turnpike's systems access panel with practiced efficiency. His internal sensors hummed, a sound I'd learned to associate with deep-level diagnostic scans. External damage. External. Deep-level diagnostic scans. External damage. Level diagnostic scans. External damage is extensive. Chassis, motivators, weapons systems, all toast. He paused. His faceplate shifted to something that might have been surprise. But his core memory is intact. You're kidding. AI functionality reads nominal. The personality matrix, combat protocols, everything that makes Turnpike, it's all there, undamaged. Hardy sat back on his haunches and looked at me. He's still in there, Cap. Asleep, but in there. I looked at the ruined dreadbot. 1,000 pounds of scorched metal and shattered armor. The thing had taken enough fire to drop a small building, lost a limb, and still it had kept shooting until his power gave out. Then he lay there for 3 months in the Colorado cold while the world moved on. Leave him. Who is this? Okay. This is internal thoughts. We're not quoting someone. While the world moved on. Leave him. Cool. Looks like our friend moved on. Cold while the world moved on. Leave him. He's a machine. SWN can rebuild the chassis around the core memory later. That was the practical thought. Then I remembered. That was the practical thought. Then I remembered that Turnpike had been standing guard in the barn, optical sensors tracking my movements while I gave him his orders. Keep the fences mended, keep the horses fed, and if anyone comes looking for trouble... He'd done exactly what I'd asked. He held... Fences mended, keep the horses fed, and if anyone comes looking for trouble... He'd done exactly what I'd asked. Held his ground against 38 armed pirates until his body gave out. We're not leaving him. Hardy didn't look surprised. Help me get these branches off. He's going to be a bitch to carry. ... A little bit of tech. The reason I did ... there, and I'll show an example. Here's the next bit of narration as I continue with the book. Later, when I'm editing, and I'm going through and I'm zooming, tab, edit, tab, edit, tab, edit, tab, edit, I get here, this looks very, very different from every other edit. Every other edit, this is the zoom level I use for edits, every edit point is in the middle of a word, typically at the end of a sentence or a line, right before a breath. Every edit's in the middle of a word. It's in the middle of a word. Middle of a word. Wait. What is this? Oh, I know that this is ... And there's nothing on the right side of the edit because I make sure that there's silence and then a breath and then I continue. So I know that that's where the ... is because later when I'm editing, I've got this bad boy on my clipboard. So when I'm editing, tab, edit, tab, edit, tab, edit, I see this, I know, I just select from here to here, I hit paste, there it is, and I move on. Tab, edit, tab, edit, tab, edit. And that's how quick the edit happens. And this is 1.5 seconds of silence, so you can hear what that sounds like. Off. He's going to be a bitch to carry. Here's the next bit of narration. For this book, that is the duration. For some books, I use a slightly longer. I use a 2-second gap, but for this book, I use a slightly shorter gap there for these intra-chapter breaks. But there you go. A simple, repeatable thing. I use this format of indicating a break in the text in every book that I do there. So let's move on. We're actually going to start recording there. And there we go. Moving on. Here we go. ... It took us the better part of an hour. Turnpike weighed close to 1,000 pounds, dead weight with no functioning motivators to assist. Even with my Gorvian-enhanced strength, the Dreadbot was an awkward, unwieldy mass of sharp edges and dead servos. Hardy... Do a little micro edit here. Of an hour. Turnpike weighed close to 1,000. Right here. Even with my... So right here. Motivators to assist. Even with my Yep, here we go. Of sharp edges and dead servos. Sharp edges and dead servos. Servos. Hardy took the bulk of it. Of sharp edges and dead servos. Hardy took the bulk of it, his internal systems straining audibly, servos whining at frequencies that made my teeth ache. We dragged and carried him, and at one point nearly dropped him over 300 yards of frozen Colorado real estate before wrestling him up. Okay, the way I read that made it sound like I dropped him down a ravine or crevasse or something, so let's reread this. At frequencies that made my teeth ache. We dragged and carried him, and at one frequencies that made my teeth ache. We dragged and carried him, and at one point frequencies that made my teeth ache. We dragged and carried him, and at one point nearly dropped him over 300 yards of frozen Colorado real estate before wrestling him up Rebellion's cargo ramp. Hardy secured Turnpike against the aft bulkhead with magnetic clamps while I caught my breath, hands on my knees, vapor trailing from my mouth in the cargo. Caught my breath, hands on my knees, vapor trailing from my mouth in the cold cargo hold. That was the easy part, Hardy said. What's the hard part? Finding Climbo. ... There's another dot, dot, dot.
Dot, dot, dot.
We searched for 2 hours. Hardy ran every scan in his considerable arsenal: thermal, electromagnetic, acoustic. We flew low grid patterns over the entire property and the surrounding BLM land. We checked the creek bed, the aspen groves. Let me make sure BLM. I am sure that means Bureau of Land Management, not Black Lives Matter. No, they do. But yes, prior to 2016, whenever it was, BLM generally was understood to mean Bureau of Land Management.
Low grid patterns over the entire property and the surrounding BLM land.
Nah, I gotta reread that.
Low grid
Patterns over the entire property and the surrounding BLM land. We checked the creek bed, the aspen groves, and the ridgeline to the west where the elk herds wintered. Nothing. No signal, no beacon, no mechanical mule. Checking if I've got a message. What's my battery like over here? 78% on the Fitbit. Making sure I don't have any messages. Okay. We're about halfway through this chapter. So let's keep going.
No
Mechanical mule. I checked my tech band. We had 6 hours to get Rebellion docked at Halibart Station before the pre-deployment briefing kicked off. 6 hours sounded generous until you factored in... I feel like this was weird.
I checked my tech band. We had 6 hours to get Rebellion docked at Halibart Station before the pre-deployment briefing kicked off. 6 hours sounded generous to get Rebellion docked at Halibart Station before the I checked my tech band.
Yeah, we're going to read here.
I checked my
Tech band. We had 6 hours to get Rebellion docked at Halibart Station before the pre-deployment briefing kicked off. 6 hours sounded generous until you factored in... 6 hours sounded generous until you factored in atmospheric exit, orbital transit, and the docking queue at a station that serviced half the fleet. Gail's last message 3 days ago, clipped and professional, the way she got when she was buried in work, said USS Thunderheads... Okay, we've got a lot of little edits to do here.
Halibart Station before the pre-deployment...
that looks like here.
At Halibart Station before the pre-deployment briefing kicked off. 6 hours sounded generous until you factored in atmospheric exit, orbital transit, and the docking queue at a station that serviced half the fleet. Gail's left the way she got when she was buried in work, said U.S.
Zoom out one more level. Thank you.
The way she got when she was
Buried in work, said USS Thunderhead's pre-deployment checks were on schedule and that she'd have the bridge squared away before I arrived. She hadn't said she missed me. I hadn't said it either.
She hadn't said she
Missed me. I hadn't said it no breath.
She hadn't said
She missed me. I hadn't said it either. 3 months apart, and we were communicating like colleagues, not whatever we were to each other. That bothered me more than I wanted to admit. Hardy hadn't spoken in 20 minutes. He stood at the helm, running scans, adjusting frequencies, running them again. His faceplate had gone black. There was no expression at all, which meant he was either processing at maximum capacity or shutting down emotionally. With a chronobot, those two states looked identical. Hardy? Nothing. Hardy? Nothing. Hardy, we need to talk about time constraints. I'm aware of the time constraints. His voice was flat, mechanical, the Boston accent buried under something colder. We've covered the property twice. If Climbo's beacon isn't transmitting, it means either the beacon's damaged or he's been destroyed. He hasn't been destroyed. Hardy said it too fast, too certain. Then the beacon's damaged, I said. That means you'd be picking up fragments.
beacon's damaged,
I said. That means you'd be picking up fragments, residual signal noise, harmonic bleed, something, and you're getting nothing. I know what I'm getting. Hardy adjusted his scan parameters again. It's like he's gone dark on purpose. Can a Kleinbo 9000 go dark on purpose? Hardy didn't answer, which was its own answer. His servos made a sound I'd never heard before, a low, grinding whine, like something inside him was fighting itself. 5 more minutes. Let me cycle through non-standard frequencies. If the beacon's damaged, the transponder might be bleeding signal on a harmonic I haven't tried yet. Hardy, 5 minutes, Cap. That's all I'm asking. I sat down in the co-pilot's chair and said nothing. 5 minutes? I could give him that. 3 minutes and 40 seconds later, Hardy straightened. There! Okay, very, very specifically, the next line is, his voice changed, Boston accent back. I don't want to delete the accent entirely. Let's listen to see if we've subdued it a bit.
Hardy, nothing. Hardy, we need to talk about time constraints. I'm aware of the time constraints. His voice was
See, that's fine.
mechanical. We've covered the... It means he hasn't been destroyed. Hardy,
That's fine.
too fast. That means you'd be picking up fragments, residual sick. I know what I'm getting.
That's fine.
It's like he's gone dark on purpose. Can a Kleinbo 9000 go dark on... Hardy didn't answer. 5 more minutes. Let me cycle through non-standard frequencies. If the beacon's damaged, the transponder might be bleeding signal on a harmonic I haven't tried yet.
I think it's all fine.
5 minutes, Cap. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. Okay. There's nothing there where the Boston accent is super, super strong. So I think that we're adhering to the author's intent here with the way that I've characterized Hardy in these passages here. Where are we?
20 seconds later, Hardy straightened.
That just means that when it says that his Boston accent's back, we gotta ratchet it up.
40 seconds later, Hardy
Straightened. There.
40 seconds later, Hardy
Straightened. There. His voice changed. Boston accent back. Baron 407. Baron 40. Baron 40. 4. Baron 407. Baron 407. 0. How does a Bostonite say 0? 407. I think they just say 0. I think that's a rhotic.
voice changed. Boston accent back. Baron 40. Voice changed.
Boston accent back. There it is.
Voice changed. Boston accent.
Accent back. Baron 407, 11.3 miles northeast. 11.3 miles northeast. Faint as hell, but that's a Kleinbo 9000 transponder signature. Degraded, cycling on a non-standard harmonic, like the primary transmitter failed and the backup kicked it. We'll fix that in a second. Let's get this.
Baron 407, 11.3 miles northeast. 11.3 miles northeast. Baron 407, 11.3 miles northeast. Faint as hell, but that's a Kleinbo 9000 transponder signature. Degraded, cycling on a non-standard harmonic. But that's a Kleinbo... Faint as hell, but that... Cycling on a non-standard harmonic, like the primary... Cycling on a non-standard harmonic. Cycling on a
Non-standard harmonic, like the primary transmitter failed and the backup kicked in at minimum power. You sure? The look he gave me could have corroded.
power.
You sure? The look he gave me could have corroded hull plating. You sure? The look he gave me could have corroded hull plating. I know my own mule signal, Cap. Take us there. Rebellion banked northeast, climbing over a... Cap. Take us there. Rebellion banked northeast, climbing over a ridgeline thick with lodgepole pine. The terrain below was wild. No roads, no structures, steep drainage... steep drainage valleys choked with deadfall. Not the kind of country a mechanical pack mule was Drainage valleys choked with deadfall. Not the kind of country a Not the kind of country a mechanical pack mule was designed for. But then again, Climbo had always been more resourceful than his specs suggested. Signal's getting stronger, Hardy reported. Close. He's in that valley. I leaned forward, scanning the terrain through the viewport. The valley below was a narrow meadow bordered by dark timber on both sides. And moving through that meadow... Elk, I said. That's a herd of elk. Maybe 40 head, cows and yearlings, their brown coats blending into the winter dry grass. Come on. 40 head, cows and yearlings. 40 head, cows and yearlings, their brown coats blending into the winter dry grass. They moved in a loose formation, grazing, unconcerned with the ship descending toward them. Hardy zoomed the optical feed. The display sharpened, and I started counting animals. 37, 38, 39... 40, I said. That's not 40. Hardy tapped the display. That's not 40. Hardy tapped the display. Count again. Back of the herd. Third from the left. I squinted. The animal in question was the right size, maybe a little stocky for an elk cow. Same brownish coloring, caked in 3 months of dirt and grime and dried mud, moving with the herd like it belonged there, head down, matching their pace. Then I saw the legs. Head down, matching their pace. Then I saw the legs, just slightly wrong, too rigid in the joints, too precise in the articulation. Son of a bitch. That's my mule. Hardy's faceplate was doing something I'd never seen, cycling through expressions so... Son of a bitch. That's my mule! Hardy's faceplate was doing something I'd never seen, cycling through expressions so fast they blurred. That sneaky, resourceful, magnificent bastard joined a herd of elk. Self-preservation programming? Climbo 9000s. Self-preservation programming? Climbo 9000s don't have self-preservation programming. Hardy was already bringing us down, throttling back the drives to minimize the noise. They have navigational autonomy and environmental adaptation protocols. Adaptation. Not adaption, adaptation. Back the drives to minimize the noise. They have navigational autonomy and environmental adaptation protocol. Back the drives to minimize the noise. They have navigational autonomy and environmental adaptation protocols. This, he shook his head, this is something else. That explained the beacon, running with a herd, matching their behavior, keeping his primary systems powered down to a minimum output. Whether that was a damaged transponder defaulting to low power mode or something more deliberate, I wasn't going to ask Hardy right now. The answer might unsettle both of us. Rebellion touched down at the meadow's edge, close enough to see the herd, but far enough not to spook them. The elk lifted their heads at the ship's approach, ears swiveling, assessing the threat. A few cows on the near side broke into a trot, putting distance between themselves and the strange metal predator. Hardy hit the ramp controls before the landing struts had fully settled.
The ramp dropped. Hardy walked down it, stopped at the bottom, and Climbo was already running. The mechanical mule broke from the herd at a full gallop, legs churning through the snow, head bobbing, closing the distance between the elk and the ship with a...
Got it.
Churning through the snow, head bobbing, closing the distance between the elk and the ship with a speed that suggested his motivators were in far better shape than turnpikes. Dirt and grime sloughed off his frame in chunks as he ran. His sensor array locked onto Hardy and didn't waver. Hardy knelt, which was something. 7 feet of chronobot, 300 years old, 5 Phazon pulsar mini-cannons concealed in his frame, kneeling in the snow of a Colorado meadow. Our mini-cannons concealed in his frame. Mini-cannons concealed in his frame, kneeling in the snow of a Colorado meadow for a robot pack mule. Climbo hit him at full tilt. The impact would have knocked a human flat. Harley barely...
Let me listen to that.
Kneeling in the snow of a Colorado meadow for a robot pack mule. Kneeling in the snow of a Colorado meadow for a
That's
robot
fine.
pack mule. Climbo hit him at full tilt. The impact would have knocked a human flat.
That's fine. Hydrate. Missed. Yeah, I've been yapping for, what's my uptime? 3 hours. So yeah, we're going to finish this chapter. Got another 10 minutes or so in it. We're going to finish this chapter, and then we're going to say adios. Because yeah, my vocal stamina is running on empty. Let's see here.
The impact would have knocked a human flat. The impact would have knocked a human flat. Hardy barely shifted. Climbo's mechanical head butted against Hardy's chest plate, then swung left, then right, then back again, a frantic, graceless repetition that had no practical purpose whatsoever. His jaw opened and closed. His legs pranced in place, hooves clicking against Hardy's armored shins. Hardy placed one chrome hand on Climbo... clicking against Hardy's armored shins. Hardy placed one chrome hand on Climbo's neck. Didn't say anything. Didn't need to. I stood at the top of the ramp and watched. The elk herd had stopped running and turned back to observe the reunion with the detached curiosity of animals who'd spent 3 months sharing their meadow with an interloper and were now finally watching it leave. They're machines, I told myself. Circuits and servos and programming. What you're seeing isn't real emotion. It's behavioral What you're seeing isn't real emotion. It's behavioral algorithms mimicking attachment behaviors. Hardy's hand moved from Climbo's neck to the top of his head. A gentle motion, careful, the way you'd touch something you were afraid you'd lost forever. Sure, Galvin. Algorithms. Hardy, I called down. We've got a deployment to make. He stood, and Climbo trotted up the ramp beside him, mechanical hooves clean... Climbo trotted up the ramp beside him, mechanical hooves... And Climbo trotted up the ramp beside him, mechanical hooves ringing against the metal, a staccato rhythm that sounded absurdly like excitement. The mule's sensor array swiveled toward me as he passed. I could have sworn the thing was... Sensor array swiveled toward me as he passed. I could have sworn the thing was grinning. I caught Hardy's eye as he reached the top of the ramp. His faceplate had settled into the John Hardy expression. Composed, understated, the face of a man who'd never admit to having feelings even if you caught him in the act. Thank you, Cap. Having feelings even if you caught him in the act. Thank you, Cap. Quiet. No jokes. No sarcasm. Secure your mule. No jokes. No sarcasm. Secure your mule. We're burning daylight. I took one last look throughout. We're burning daylight.
Loud truck passing. It is 7 a.m., 7:09 a.m. here on the eastern coast, and thus, even though it is Saturday, right? Fucking day is it? Even though it is Saturday, the morning traffic has already started. I live about 300 yards from the main street, the main sort of coastal highway here in beautiful mid-coast Maine, and my booth does a pretty good job of blocking out all kinds of noise, but the heaviest of trucks and, motorcycles and stuff. That noise does penetrate into the booth here.
Secure your mule. Burn daylight. Secure your mule. We're burning daylight. I took one last look through the viewport as the ramp closed. The two chimneys were visible in the far distance, standing like sentinels over something that wasn't there anymore. I'd build it back. Or I wouldn't. Gail and I hadn't talked about the ranch, not once in 3 months. Not the cabin, not the property, not what it had meant to either of us before 38 Pylor pirates turned it into a combat zone. She'd been neck-deep in pre-deployment work aboard Thunderhead, and I'd been running logistics from EUNF. In pre-deployment work aboard Thunderhead, and I'd been running logistics from EUNF headquarters, and the distance between us had calcified into something neither of us acknowledged. I doubted she'd ever want to set foot here again. The last memories she had of this place involved plasma fire, broken ribs, and dragging Sonia through a blizzard while the cabin burned behind her.
Let's come back all the way here.
Memories she had of this place involved plasma fire, broken ribs, and dragging Sonia through a blizzard while the cabin involved plasma fire, broken ribs, and dragging Sonia through a blizzard while the cabin burned behind her. That wasn't the kind of thing a new coat of paint and replacement timber could fix. Today, I had a 10-mile Supreme-level Omninaut called USS Thunderhead. Today, I had a 10-mile Supreme-level Omninaut called USS Thunderhead that I hadn't even set.
Gotta find a good. Here we go.
10-mile Supreme-level Omninaut. 10-mile Supreme-level Omninaut called USS Thunderhead that I hadn't even set foot on yet. A crew to assemble. 7 green ensigns to forge into officers. An admiral riding along to judge whether I was up to...
Stop here and get this edit. It's going to be... Is it here?
I had a 10-mile Supreme-level Omninaut called USS Thunderhead that I hadn't even set foot on yet. Supreme-level Omninaut called USS Thunderhead.
Okay.
Ensigns to forge into officers. An admiral riding along... Ensigns to forge...
Have I interpreted this correctly?
Could fix. Today, I had a 10-mile Supreme-level Omninaut called USS Thunderhead that I hadn't even set foot on yet. A crew to assemble. 7 green ensigns
That's fine.
to forge into officers. An admiral... ensigns to forge into officers. An admiral riding along to judge whether I was up to the task. And in a few hours, I'd be standing on the same bridge with a woman I hadn't seen in 3 months, trying to figure out whether we were still something or just 2 officers who used... Whether we were still something or just 2...
Which...
Still something or... whether we were still something or just 2 officers who used to share a front porch. Hardy, get us to Halibart. Best speed. On it, Cap. Rebellion's drives spooled up, and the frozen meadow fell away beneath us. Climbo settled against Hardy's station, his mechanical frame leaning into the chronobot's leg like a dog pressed against its owner's ankle. Behind us, the elk went back to grazing. Colorado shrank into a quilt of white and brown and green, then a curve, then a memory. Ahead, the black. Then a memory. Ahead, the black.
And that's a wrap on the chapter. Let's do that last little edit there. And then we'll probably say good day.
Get us to Halibart. Best speed. On it, Cap. Climbo settled us. Spooled up, and the frozen meadow fell away beneath us. Climbo settled against Hardy's station, his mechanical frame leaning into the chronobot's leg like a dog pressed against its owner's ankle. Behind us, the elk went back to grazing. Colorado shrank into a quilt of white and brown and green, then a curve, then a memory. Ahead, the black. Then a memory. Then a memory. Ahead, the black. Ahead, the black.
I actually like the first read there. That's fine. Okay. So, do we want to edit this right now? Maybe we go ahead and edit. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it here. So let's mark down our time. Our time here is 00, 34, 59. So we beat pace by more than 5 minutes, which is great. So now we're going to edit. And for editing, I will put on the big cans. It's a little more comfortable. Usually for editing, I edit with speakers. I don't use cans at all. But for the purposes of what we're doing here, let's listen.
Chapter 1.
Okay. So the clipboard is super important for this. And we're probably going to have to listen to this intro a little bit to make sure I get it right. But I think it's green, 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 yellow, I think is what I do here. Yeah. Green, 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 yellow. So let's do that here. We start with pre-cut. Let's go ahead and do that so you're not hearing the echo there. Here we go. So you're going to see my edit process, which is, potentially daunting. It's going to be fast. I'll tell you what, it's going to be fast. We're going to zoom through the edit. And basically, what you need to know for the edit here, hotkey. In Pro Tools, if I press Tab, that jumps me to the next cut point, the next edit point. So I'm pressing Tab, jumps to this one. I press Tab, it'll jump to this one over here to the right. So it jumps to the right. Tab, 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 new edit point, new edit point, new edit point. So for each edit point, what I need to do, this is a normal edit point. What I need to do is I need to drag the boundaries. So this is the old take. I need to drag this boundary. And then the new take, I drag this boundary. And basically, just because I know visually what I'm looking at, I know that this right here is a breath. I know it because I've seen these breaths literally thousands of times. So I know when I press space here, by moving those edit points to the beginning of this breath, it's going to be a nice, natural sounding transition. Let's hear it.
Chimneys standing 30 feet apart, connected by nothing but ash.
That's a fine edit point. Whereas here, the problem is, as recorded, that edit point is in the middle of a word, because that's how I had to start it for the punch and roll recording method. But there will be a little bit of a jarring, you'll be able to hear that cut. Listen.
Standing 30 feet apart, connected.
Yeah, that's no good. Plus, you can't crossfade that, because there's this line right here is the beginning of this clip. There's no more time to the left on this clip, which means I can't crossfade. Crossfading is king. And if I try to crossfade, it'll throw an error. See? Skip invalid fade. So dragging to the left to the beginning of this breath, not only does it avoid an awkward cut there, but now I've got space on the left and the right of both these clips that I can do a crossfade. Let me zoom in and show you like how small the crossfade likely will be. There you go. Let's hear it.
Standing 30 feet apart, connected by no.
Perfect. I'm not going to do the crossfades manually, though, because we'll be here all fucking day if I'm doing the crossfades manually. What I do at the end is I select everything, and then I hit Control F in Pro Tools here. That brings up the batch fades window. Basically, I can apply very, very small, 10 millisecond, super, super small crossfade to every single cut that's in this project. Cancel that for now. Now, there are a couple places where I'm put in crossfades manually during the recording. Like, I think here is a spot. Yeah, this is a crossfade that I did manually. And that is a way for me to know that that's a spot where I did a short little spot of long form recording. It's just a way that I know as I'm tabbing through, when I see that, oh, I don't need to adjust this at all. I know this is good because I edited it sort of as we were going, as we were working. So that's enough of that. It's going to be fast once we start going. Like everything else, I'm going to start a timer, and it's like you're always trying to beat your record, right? It's like we're speed running this edit. This edit should only take, it says 6 minutes. It's probably going to take more like 4, maybe 4.5 minutes. 4.5, I'm going to set that as my personal benchmark. I want to beat 4.5 minutes for this edit. Let me double check that I've got the right thing on the clipboard. I do. So let's see how this edit goes. All right, 3, 2, 1. Start. We'll delete that. Delete this section. Scroll, delete this. And then here, we're going to paste the yellow because that's the gap that I want there. These other gaps, we're pasting the green. Oh no, we zoomed on accident. Green, green, green. Now we come here, and now we're in tab mode. Did I already make that edit? I did. Here we go. There we go. Now this is the Zen groove right here. This is the thing that, what's that? It's not highway psychosis, highway blindness. That thing, like, you know, people who, like long haul truck drivers and so forth, if you're driving long periods of like straight American highways, you kind of go a little bit crazy because you're looking at the same thing, just, you know, long straight road, that yellow dotted line. So if ever I'm going to hypnotize myself and fall asleep while I'm working, it's while I'm doing this. And it's the only thing I can like really yap while I do because this is so automatic. Like I hit tab, I see where the breath is or the end of the word, and there's not like real decision making going on for the majority of these cuts. It's pretty automatic. Like it's the kind of thing that, like, you know, the demand is so small, so I don't think it's going to happen for 20 years. But it's the kind of thing that I think like AI could do. This very specific application, I think AI could do like 95% of these cuts. I think AI could like be trained to go like, hey, in this situation, you're looking for a breath. It could absolutely find the breaths for sure. But in cases where, like, I don't know, the breath pattern isn't the same on both sides of the cut, like, you do have to, like, stop and sort of use your ears or your, I don't know, your sense of taste, if you will. Sometimes I'm spotting little bits of mouth noise. I don't know. I'm pretty trusting of my tools. RX Mouth Declick does a pretty phenomenal job of catching mouth noise. Hold on, I gotta listen.
Over the entire property and this.
Yeah, that's good. It does a pretty good job of catching mouth noise and eliminating all the little sinus clicks. But sometimes, like there, you know, just for my peace of mind, we're there. We caught it. Let's eliminate it. Give RX a break, you know? Work so hard. It deserves a break. Oh, my eyes are getting dry. This is like the most visually like, it's dry in this booth too. my phone just did a little... I felt it vibrate and the screen lit up. I can see that in my peripheral. But when that timer is running, no distractions. No distractions. No way, no how. So we're going to keep working. We will check the phone as soon as we finish this chapter. And we're about 3/4 through this edit. Let's really try to turn on turbo mode. Lock in here. Get to the end of this chapter. We're so locked in. Oh my God. But yeah, this is it. This is the life of a narrator. Read to yourself, and you edit, and you read, and you edit until you die. Okay. We're coming up nearly to the end here. My eyes are so dry. There it is. Paste. Grab this different clip. Stop the timer. We estimated 4:30 and we came in at 4:54. Not so bad. All right. We are bouncing this to new folder. Oh, no, this is Patrick. USS Thunderhead. Use that folder. We're bouncing this as chapter _1. Enter, enter. Did I actually get a message, or was it my phone saying, hey, you're fully charged, or whatever? I think that was the latter. Is my Fitbit fully charged? It is 94%. Okay. And boom, that is that. Then we come over here and we'll mark the edit time, 04:54, and we'll mark the length of that finished chapter, which is 21:34. Very, very close to estimate. So our per finished hour production ratio on that particular chapter was a 1.85, which is insanely good. It's also a bit misleading because you were here. Hey, what's going on? How do you download my replays? I think on Twitch, I think the VODs are available for a week. But on YouTube, you should be able to watch the live replays in perpetuity. So got an iPad machine you can put them on, but don't know how to. I don't know how to either because I don't really know what that means. But yeah, YouTube is a way that you for sure can. I've got dozens of live streams just like this on YouTube that you can check out. But for Twitch, they're only on the shelf, as it were, for a week. And I don't really do much in the way of like clips or anything on Twitch. It's just a vehicle for me to like stay busy, keep myself on task, because like if I'm live on stream, I'm not gonna, stop in the middle of a chapter and start scrolling Instagram. I'm not going to like, wow, we could play a little bit of, let's just real quick, let's just do a Slay the Spire run. Like I'm not going to do that while I'm on stream. That's not this kind of stream. This is a work and a productivity stream. And so yeah, that's the vibe there. But no, I appreciate it. And so yeah, I hope you can figure out whatever you've got going on with your iPad machine. All right. So that is chapter 1 of 30. Got a long way to go, but we narrated 4% of the book. So there you go. For this book, this author has given me clearance to narrate their book, but they didn't have any explicit stipulations about the narration. But using my common sense, I'm not going to read too many chapters on stream consecutively. And, you know, I'll obviously not read anything that's like major spoiler territory, that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to narrate the entire book on stream. Like, don't expect that. If you're watching this at some point in the future, you know, I would imagine that this will be, right now, we're at the beginning of May 2026. I would imagine that this will be available for purchase on audible.com probably middle of early to middle of June at the latest. This will be available. This should take me about 2 weeks to produce. And then it takes a few weeks for the QA and distribution process to happen. But I will do quite a few more streams from now until then, but you are going to be getting little sporadic snippets from different places in the book. So you can, the ebook and the physical book are available for purchase right now, but the audiobook, it's going to be a few weeks, and you're not going to hear the entire book on this stream. But thanks for the folks that swung through. Thanks for stopping by. If you have any questions, feel free, whether it's through Twitch, through YouTube comments. You can go to my website. It is veteranaudio.com. You can shoot me a message there. There's a little contact form. It's got my email or something like that. You can head over there if you'd like to pay me to talk for you. There's a little business inquiry form there. You can give me information about your project, and we can work out rates and all that good stuff, and we can get you squared away. But until then, thank you for stopping by. I hope that you're doing well in your journey, whether it's voiceover, audiobook narration, whatever you got. My name is Jimmy Moreland. This is the Jimmy Veteran Audio channel, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.